You are live. Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 version of the state of the coaching industry. Man, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. As people are coming in, we are doing a simulcast. We're going live through StreamYard and a bunch of different places online. Oh, that's really cool. The branding there of Elite Success Systems. I hadn't noticed that till right now. That is a Michelle creation. Thank you for that. Hello. A lot of people coming in. Coach Chad, Bradley, Jenny Lynn, Joy, Delisha. Hello, Erica, Aaron. Hey. Lots of people. I haven't seen your names in a while. I haven't talked to a lot of you in a while. Edward, Andy. Hello. So we've got multiple things going on here. We're simulcasting. We're doing Instagram Live, also StreamYard, and a bunch of different places. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. And so we want you to engage as much as you can, as much as you want. But if you engage on StreamYard, or if you're like in one of the Facebook groups and you type a comment, we'll see it here. But your name will just say like Facebook user or something like that. And so if you want your name and your Facebook picture to show up on your StreamYard comments, then you have to go to that link right there that just showed up, streamyard.com/Facebook, and then do something. I don't know what they're going to ask you to do right there, but take a picture or give away your next born child or whatever it is. But that way we'll be able to see your faces and we can highlight comments on here and so forth. So we want this to be engaging. We want it to be interactive. You can chat if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you can chat the normal places that you would write in your comments. So ask your questions. And I'm not necessarily going to be watching all the comments. Michelle's going to be paying attention to a lot of comments, and she'll send me stuff that maybe I need to address or she wants me to address. But we'll answer the questions somehow, some way. You know, maybe Michelle will answer, other members will answer, and we just want a co-creative experience here. We're going to talk about the state of the coaching industry. What's going on in coaching, you guys? What's working? What's not working? What are the opportunities? How do you create engagement? How do you find the attention that you're looking for? All the things that are important to you as a coach. I'm going to tell you about a bunch of things that we've got coming up over the next 6 months. We're launching a couple different programs. I'm launching this book right here very soon. So we'll tell you about a lot of that stuff. We've got some interest lists that you can join for some of those things that we'll talk about, and we'll just have a grand old time. I don't know how long we're going to go. It'll be a while. I can't imagine this not lasting at least 2 hours and maybe a little bit more. We'll go until it feels like we're done, for now at least. And of course, stay as long as you can, come back, rewatch whatever it is that you missed. Because there's going to be a lot of information that I want to share with you. And the hard part is going to be keeping this under 6 hours. That's going to be the tough part, because we've been diving in and dissecting so much what is up in the coaching industry and I'm not saying everything's bad. I'm just saying, like, we have to understand the industry. If you want to be a coach, you have to understand the industry that you want to coach inside of. You have to understand humans. You have to understand yourself. There's so much to understand, and we've been diving into it with some really deep level dissection. And I want to tell you about a bunch of this stuff that's going to be really important to you. And towards the end of this, or maybe, I don't know if it's going to be the end of this, but we want to talk about you specifically. What do you need to know? How can you set yourself up to succeed? How can you really understand yourself? How can you identify what your greatest assets are, what your strengths are? You are the most important asset of your business to a large degree. And I think a lot of people know that or would agree with that, but don't really understand how to, or like what to do with that. right? So I want to break down a bunch of that stuff. So if you don't know a whole lot about me, first of all, welcome to all of you that are in our programs or follow us on YouTube or you subscribe to the channel or on social media of any kind. Welcome. And for those of you that don't know, that maybe this is your first time, don't know a whole lot about me, I'll tell you just a little bit about me. Um, I'm passionate about helping people who are insecure about themselves, right? So if you have any insecurities, raise your hand or out yourself in the comments, because it's impossible in my experience to get rid of those insecurities, but the insecurities themselves are actually your superpower. The things that you might be trying to hide are the things that will actually get people to fall in love with you and follow you and hire you as a coach. So we have what I think is a misconception of what the human value really is, meaning what makes us valuable to other humans, what makes us valuable in the marketplace. And we all, I think, have this journey that where we've been trying to cover up our insecurities and our imperfections and the mistakes and all the things, the blemishes and all the things that we don't really have a good relationship with. We think that's the stuff that we need to cover up so that we can put out a more pure or more perfect version of ourselves. And I'm going to explain why later, but I'm just going to say this now. That's the worst thing you can do. Nobody cares about the perfect version of you because nobody believes it in the first place, but nobody cares about that. And it takes willingness, it takes courage, it takes some bravery, it takes support, it takes understanding in order to lead with the things that you've probably spent the majority of your life trying to hide. I've never said that before. Lead with the thing you've been trying to hide. People will value that much more than you think they will. Not that people are just going to buy, anybody that's a hot mess, right? We're not talking about you just air your dirty laundry and go, okay, I'm a hot mess. Anybody want to follow me? But it's the vulnerabilities and it's the lessons that you've learned after the vulnerabilities, after the adversity that people are looking for. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here because we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I want to speak to this while it's on my mind. Most people are afraid of putting themselves out there for whatever reason. But nobody's looking for you. Nobody's looking for you, especially early on in your journey. People are looking for lessons. People are not looking for messengers. Now, once they find you, or once you find a messenger that you really connect with and you start to trust and you start to follow, then you might follow the person. But nobody's searching for people until they find the lessons that they're looking for and then connect to the person that's teaching them those lessons. The reason that's really important for you to understand is that the earlier you are in your journey, or the more insecurity you have about putting yourself out there, your ego is trying to protect yourself, not your lessons. I actually don't know anybody who has insecurity around the lessons they've learned. They only have insecurities about themselves. They have insecurities because they don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to take shots, from other people's opinions and judgments. But nobody has that relationship that I've come across with their lessons. So what if we valued our lessons more than who's delivering the lessons? And when I mean more, not like I want you to value yourself less, but what if you recognize that if they don't know who you are, then the only thing they could be looking for and the only thing they're going to value is your lessons? And then what if you looked at the confidence that you have and the certainty that you have in the lessons that you can teach rather than the perfection that you can put on display? It would change a lot for almost all of you. And that's how you can actually turn your insecurities into assets. And that's how your introverted nature, if you also identify as an introvert, that's how your introverted nature can actually be a superpower of yours. Because the more introverted we are means the more generally that we are spending looking at ourselves. And it might feel like that's not necessarily the definition of introvert. My understanding of the definition of an introvert is how we recharge. Do you recharge with alone time, basically, or do you recharge with other people? But I think one of the behaviors that introverts, and I'm highly introverted, like almost off the charts introverted. I, of course, do YouTube videos and lives, and I speak on stage and stuff like that. But off stage, when the lights are off, I'd rather be invisible. And in those invisible times, I'm thinking a ton. I'm in my head a lot. Let me know if this sounds like you. I'm in my head wondering if I'm doing things right, wondering if somebody's lack of feedback means that they don't like me anymore or they want me to change. I'm constantly filtering through my insecurities, and the introverted nature just multiplies that, right? So you're not necessarily an introvert if you're insecure. But I think if you're insecure and an introvert, it's like a double whammy that then kind of exaggerates each other. They sort of start to feed off each other. And what I want you to really hear is that even though there are a lot of first of all, there's a lot of people like me that you see them in the spotlight and you might think they're extroverted because when you see them, it seems like they're on. There's a lot more people who are introverted when the lights are off than you might think, but you only see them in the way that you see them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there are a lot of extroverted people that are in the spotlight that are leading industries, coaching being one of them. And that doesn't mean that you, with your insecurities, and if you're an introvert, can't win. It's just that you can't win with their recipe. You can't do it like they're doing it because you're not like them. So what I've found out or kind of just figured out, I don't know the difference between those two things, as I've been really diving into these conversations that I've been having over the last few weeks, really, is that my sweet spot, I would say, is helping people who are insecure, helping people who are introverted on top of that, in one of two buckets. And I'm just going to speak specifically to the coaching industry right now because that's the channel that we're live in, and those are the groups that we're on and so forth. But a lot of these concepts are going to apply outside of the coaching industry. But for those of you that want to be coaches, if you are brand new in the industry and you just don't know what path to follow and you're just kind of wobbly-kneed, right? You're that newborn giraffe trying to figure out how to walk. I really love trying to help people find their stability in themselves, in their message, find their confidence, find their certainty. I really love the idea of sort of being a midwife, right? And helping people get their first client, helping people do their first Facebook Live, helping people sell their first online program. There's something that really excites me about that. And I think it's because I just remember my journey through those early phases. The second bucket of people that I've recognized I just really enjoy and have a passion for are people that are not necessarily brand new in the industry, and you've done some certification programs, you have skills in your coaching, and you actually have confidence and certainty in your skill set, but something is still not clicking. I've been focusing over the last few months on those people because the people that have confidence in their skills, but something is still not working, those people have different challenges than the people that don't have confidence in their skills. And your confidence and certainty in your skills is a vital ingredient. So if you don't have that, then that's going to be the first step that I would tell you to do. Get confident and certain, and those things are different, by the way, confident and certain in your skill set. If your product is coaching, especially transformational coaching, as opposed to like informational coaching or motivational coaching or transactional coaching, if your product is more transformational coaching and you want to roll your sleeves up and get messy with the messy humans, that's a whole different game than teaching people information, than just selling information, right? So if you want to be that kind of coach and have that kind of impact where you can really, truly transform people's lives, you need a different level of certainty in yourself as a deliverer or a facilitator of transformation, and the skills themselves that can provide the transformation for people. If you don't have those two things, it's just not going to work in the transformational world, because the transformational journey is a lot more intimate. People need to trust you more. They're paying more attention to your energy than even they understand they are. The intimate game of transformation, and I don't mean intimate in terms of like romantic, that's one connotation of that word. I just mean intimate, like up close and personal. Like somebody's going to trust you to help, to allow you to help them change their lives, maybe feel better about themselves, change the way they look or feel in their body or in their relationships, or help them parenting their child, or whatever it is that you really want to help people do. Those transformational journeys are intimate journeys. And so the coaching relationship inside the transformational journey is an intimate relationship. And if you don't have confidence in that, in yourself, in the skills, in the path, they'll feel it. And that's one of the reasons why people struggle. Even people that do get confidence and a level of certainty, they still struggle in the relationship of it, because it's like new territory for most of us, right? So I've developed a passion for people in those two buckets. And so the majority of the application of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about and the examples that I give are just naturally going to come from those two places. And I really try to help people. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher by nature, but also by trade. You know, I was a school teacher for many years before I entered into the whole world of personal development, and then became a speaker, and then ultimately became a coach. So I'm a teacher by nature. I want the students to get it. I want people to understand it. I want to teach you how to divide fractions, and then I want to see if you can actually do it. So I want to teach you how to market, and then I want to see if you can actually do it. I want to teach you how to get clarity on your messaging, and then I want to see you actually do it. So my focus is on implementation. And because of that, it's not sexy. I'm going to dive into this a little bit later too. We're going to really explore what sexy success looks like versus what sustainable success looks like, because you got to understand what path you're on and what ultimately you're committed to. So the way I teach is not really sexy for a lot of people, because it's not this one size fits all, 1, 2, 3, just do this, do that, and you're going to have a $10,000 weekend, because that's just not reality for most people. So, but if you're interested in sustainable transformation, and there's also no such thing as sexy transformation. There's no such thing as exciting, comfortable, enjoyable, I wish this would last longer kind of transformation. If there is, I haven't seen it, at least not in the stuff that we talk about in terms of getting rid of limiting beliefs and changing identities and unlearning and taking layers off and all that stuff. So you have to understand what you're committed to and then what path that commitment is going to require. So that's how I teach. I do a lot more over teaching probably than under teaching. And so just understand that that's the animal that's in front of you today. And before we get into this, I forgot to say this earlier. We have an announcement to make. A few weeks ago, we did a video on our YouTube channel. You should all watch it if you haven't watched it, or go watch it again. A lot of people are saying they're watching it multiple times. It's a relatively long one, but it's a masterclass basically on goal getting. It's on achievement. It's on what detachments do we have to have from our past, from our shame, from our guilt, from the associations that we have to goal setting and goal getting and accountability and all the things that are required. Most of us had negative associations to the process of goal achievement and setting goals and identifying targets. And that's the main reason why we fail. It's not because we don't understand how to set smart goals and create goal posters and actually do the work. It's not that we don't intellectually understand that stuff. It's that we've got a lot of resistance to all of it. But most of us don't know what we're actually resisting. And unless we unhook the chains from the sabotaging weights that we're carrying around, we're actually not going to be able to achieve our goals in any kind of liberating way. So we did this video. Go check it out. We'll post a link so that you can just click and go watch the video. It's on our YouTube channel. It says goal getting in 2022, I believe. It's got me pointing, I think, to a picture of a bullseye target. So check that out. And in that video, we had a contest. Now the contest is over, but I'm about to announce the winner. I chose the winner a few days ago, but I didn't announce it anywhere. The winner is somebody who put their comments. We asked people to put their comments in the section, and we would pick somebody to do a demo process of helping you identify what your targets are and do a game plan for you individually. We'll film this one-on-one and then share it with people. And the winner of this is that was a fantastic drum set. Alice Graves, you are the winner of the goal demo. She doesn't even know this. We didn't email her or even respond to the comments. So if you're watching this, then congratulations. Let us know you're watching this, and let us know how you feel about being chosen. So we will contact you and we'll schedule a time where we can help you individually. So let's get into the coaching industry. If you want to be a coach, you need to understand the coaching industry. You need to understand the arena that you are entering. A lot of people don't understand the arena. It's like going into a playground, but you don't understand the playground. You don't understand the tambark or whatever the sand is, or you don't understand the different apparatuses. If you don't understand the territory that you're walking through and you want to explore and you want to succeed in, then it's going to be very, very difficult to succeed. So let's start this conversation with the coaching industry itself. This is based on 17 years in this industry. I've been a coach that whole time. So I was coaching before social media. I was coaching before a lot of the marketing that has taken hold now even started, before a lot of the platforms even started. So I'm an old guy. I'm an OG in the coaching industry, and I've seen so many of the shifts, and I've got a perspective that is somewhat unique. I mean, we all have unique perspectives, but my perspective is based on a lot of this experience and based on some of the things that I'm seeing, as well as what's going on for us in our business. Because obviously we are in business and we sell a bunch of programs and we do private coaching and we do certification programs and we do live events and we do a lot of stuff, right? So I want to be transparent with a lot of the things that we're experiencing as well as a company so that you can learn. But just because something is happening for us doesn't mean it's going to happen for you. Just because something is succeeding for us doesn't mean it's going to succeed for you, or vice versa. Just because something's not working well for us doesn't mean it won't work well for you. So I just don't want you to take what I'm about to say as the gospel truth, where this is the thing to do or the measure, not measure as much as tactic for your success. So I want to make this as conceptual as possible, but I do want to give you some of our individual examples. All right. So the coaching industry, I already talked about how transformation is the type of coaching that I'm personally interested in. It has changed my life fundamentally. And so I am more committed to transformational coaching. And transformational coaching, even deeper than that, neurotransformational coaching. That's actually a term that I coined and we put in our online coaching program, BCC, neurotransformational coaching. It's the introduction to changing people's neurology. Transformation means a change in formation. This is where you literally help people change the way they're experiencing the world, change the way they're experiencing themselves, change the way they're experiencing the planet. That's what neurotransformation is. Most people, I think, are searching for, and most people are consuming, and I think most people are selling transactional coaching or informational coaching, where we get information, but it really doesn't change us at a deep foundational level. It just changes our perspective a little bit or gives us new thoughts. And that doesn't mean that that coaching isn't valuable. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying they're different. And so if you are an informational coach and that's what you're committed to, then don't listen to anything I say about transformational coaching, because you don't need to. But if you're a transformational coach, and don't think that informational coaching templates and the path that works for informational coaching is necessarily going to work for transformational coaching. So I'm just making a distinction, not a judgment of value. So before we get into how the transformational coaching industry itself has changed, let's talk about how humanity has changed. The world over the last couple years has changed humans. It's changed our programming. It's changed our relationships to each other. It's changed our relationship to the internet. It's changed our relationship to social media. I think we have dependency on certain things, including social media, at a level that we didn't have dependency on before. It's changed our relationship to learning. So much of what has been happening over the last couple of years, specifically because of the pandemic, is that people are staying at home and bringing everything to themselves. And there was that opportunity before, but not the same level of dependency. A lot of people lost their jobs, or a lot of people kept their jobs but started working from home. And what that did is it created a different level of dependency on the information that we get online, through our phones, through the internet, what goes through social media. And the platforms themselves have made some changes because of all of what the world has been experiencing over the last couple of years. So most people have done a lot more learning online over the last couple of years than they did before, because it was kind of like the only way to do it. If you want to talk about the coaching industry, there hasn't been hardly any live events in a long, long time. I know they started to pick up a little bit a little while ago, but for a year, better part of a year, maybe a little bit more, there was virtually no live events. And that disrupted a lot of stuff. And people just had to learn differently. And a lot of people recognize that they can learn really well online. And a lot of people recognize the opposite, that they don't like learning well online. They got to be in person so they can, get their hands in the information and belly to belly and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, there's been a lot of shifting and a lot of learning because of the disruption. There's been disruption across the board in humanity, and there's been disruption across the planet because of everything we've been experiencing. So how does that relate to what you need to know, and how is it relevant to you? The reason it's relevant to you is because if you want to serve humans, you have to understand how humans have shifted. And I think the most relevant thing for you in this industry is that trust has been eroded. I think we trust people and we trust platforms way less than we used to. At the same time, the ones that we do trust, we trust more. But the amount of things and people that we trust and just the overall concept of trust has gotten a lot less, in my opinion. But if you found certain things that were really aligned with you, then you're more dependent on those things. And what we have to understand about the human mind inside of the trust conversation is that if we have trust issues, when we have trust issues, and I think we all have trust issues now at a deeper level than we used to. When we have trust issues and we don't trust people, we don't trust what we see, we don't trust the decisions that we make, we don't trust the information, then the human brain becomes guarded to the point where we're actually trying to filter out more than we're trying to filter in. So we are trying to get rid of and block ourselves from all the things that are coming at us. You know, you think about the way that you might scroll through social media, especially the platforms that you're not dependent on, right? Like for me, that's Facebook. Over the last 6 months or so, I've been way less connected on Facebook. So when I do go onto Facebook, I scroll in a different way with a different mode and a different intention than I used to. I'm scrolling to go past things. I'm not scrolling to stop at things and consume things on a deep level. YouTube is different. When I'm on YouTube, I'm all in on the things that I am reading and watching and listening to. And I do YouTube more like a podcast more often than not, where my phone's in my pocket and I'm just listening. So YouTube is an example for me where I'm much more attached there than I was a couple of years ago. And Facebook is the exact opposite. So when I'm scrolling through Facebook, I'm not doing it the same way. When I'm opening up my email inbox, tell me if this is true for you too. When I open up my email, I'm scrolling to delete. I'm not scrolling to open and read. I'm scrolling to delete. On my phone, I've got a little thing that says edit. I hit edit, and then I can just mass select all these emails that don't get my immediate intrigue and attention, and then I just delete them all. In one shot, I get rid of 60 messages. That's what I do in the morning. And if that's what I do in the morning, I think that's what a lot of people are doing in the morning. And I think most people have moved more toward that than they were before. So what that means is we are filtering to delete more than we are filtering to consume. So what does that mean? That means whatever your message is, however valuable it is, however awesome you are, no matter what valuable transformation you can provide for people, if they're scrolling to delete, it doesn't matter if you get deleted. If you try to invite people the way that worked 5 years ago, before we had all these, the level of mass programming and mass marketing that we have now, if you try to use what worked 5 years ago, now you almost have no chance. There are some foundational ways that we're kind of moving back to, and I'm going to touch on those in a little bit. But you have to understand the human has changed. And when the human has changed and the human's appetite has changed, then the human behaviors have changed. And so if you're serving humans, you better change what you serve. You better change the way that you serve, because the appetite, what people are hungry for, has shifted. So that's why all of this is relevant. Understanding that you're trying to get the attention of people who don't trust you. And they're not trying to listen to you. They're trying to have any reason to not listen to you. They're filtering out more than they're filtering in. So what does that mean? I don't know what it's going to mean for each one of you individually. What it means is you just got to know that. And then how can you adjust to grab the attention? I'll go into some of the things that I think you should be doing and what's working to grab attention nowadays in a little bit. So now let's switch from what the world has been doing to the coaching industry specifically. The coaching industry specifically. Our beloved, I I genuinely get sad sometimes now when I think about the coaching industry. And it's not because I have like disdain or a whole lot of anger or judgment anymore. I used to. There's just a sadness that I feel when I think about a lot of what's happening in the coaching industry, but I totally understand it. And you have to understand it. The industry is unregulated. So what does that mean? It means there's no laws about what people can and can't do. There are overriding laws that apply to internet marketing and sales online and all that stuff. Yeah, that's going to apply because that applies everywhere. But there are no industry specific regulations, meaning there's nobody that says, here's how you prove competency as a coach. This is what you have to do. If you want to be a lawyer, there is that. You got to take the bar exam. You got to pass your state's standards. I'm just speaking as an American. So if you don't live in America, I apologize if some of this stuff isn't making sense to you, but there's a set of agreed upon standards inside the industry that says, if you want to be competent, this is how you prove that you're competent. If you want to be a therapist, there's a competency agreed upon path. If you want to be a counselor, if you want to be a doctor, in the coaching industry, there's no agreed upon path. The reason that's really important is because a lot of the marketers are therefore competing with each other, saying what the path should be. Imagine if you wanted to be a therapist and you didn't have to decide what the right path is. You just followed the path. And then you had to deal with all the things that come with following the path, but you didn't have to try to pick and choose what path is the right path. Well, in the coaching industry, we got to figure out what path is the right path. And so when people are competing about which path is the right one and trying to sell you their idea or their programs of what path is the right one, especially with specifics, meaning like, if you want to succeed as a coach, you have to do Facebook ads. Or if you want to succeed as a coach, you can't do Facebook ads. You have to do Instagram ads, or you can't do either of those. You have to do webinars. And then people are going, webinars are dead. You've got to do short private message funnels and get people on a calendar right away. And all that stuff is dead. And we got to go back to networking. And there's just so much exhaustion to try to pick and choose the right path. And that's unique to unregulated industries. And here's a thing I've been noticing a lot for myself. When I know I'm on the right path, I commit differently. Like, let's say you've lost your key or keys or your phone. Let's really ratchet up the leverage here. Let's say you've lost your phone and you're really attached to that thing, or you really need it for wherever it is you want to go. If you lost your phone and you knew it was in your house, how would you look for your phone? You would go to the places that you think it is. You would check certain rooms. You would trace your steps, all that kind of stuff. But what if somebody told you, yeah, it's in your house, but it's in your bedroom specifically? How would you commit to searching for your phone in your bedroom? If you spent 5 minutes and you couldn't find it, but you didn't know it was in the bedroom, chances are you'll go to another room because you might think it's probably not in here. I don't know if it's in here, so I'd rather not waste any more time following this potentially wrong path, so I'm going to go check that room. But if you know it's in your bedroom, you won't opt out that way to go to another room because you know it's here. So you're going to be more committed and you'll find your phone faster probably than if you didn't know it was in your room. Or what if somebody said, it's in that piece of luggage right there? Not only is it in your house, not only is it in your room, it's in that piece of luggage. If you had that level of certainty over the right place that you are exploring, the way you would explore would be different. Your commitment would be different, and your results would therefore be different. So whenever there's insecurity over the right thing to do, the human is less committed. because there's always the thought, maybe this isn't the right thing. And then when there's competition coming after you about what the right thing to do is, then there's all these distractions. And if we don't really truly know what that path is, any of them are going to sound really good coming off the tongue of a good salesperson. And I'm not trying to throw shade at good salespeople. I'm just saying, if you don't have a commitment and certainty over what's right, it adds a variable to the whole process that weakens your commitment. And this process requires commitment. So if the process of human growth and the process of evolving your skills and finding alignment and all the things that are important in the coaching industry, if that requires commitment and your lack of certainty around what's right erodes commitment, well, then we have a problem. And I'm sure many of you, if not almost all of you, have made a choice about something, whether it's the coaching industry or something else, about what you think is the right thing to do. And then at some point quit because you didn't really know if this was the right thing to do. So you jumped over to another maybe right thing. So what I want to do is challenge your definition of right. The intellect is looking for the right thing to do for certain reasons. We'll get into that a little bit later, the reasons behind this. But the intellect is looking for the right thing to do. But the definition of right is basically guaranteed won't fail. If I know that this is my purpose, or I know that this is my market, or I know that this is my pricing, or I know that this is my product, or I know that this is my platform, or I know that this is the color of shirt that I should wear, then I'll really stay committed on it. But the reason that we're looking for that is because we want to make sure that we succeed, because we don't want to fail. My challenge for you is to drop that definition of right, because it will only work never. The next time that works in this industry with humans supporting humans, it'll be the first time it works. And I guarantee it won't work. There's no such thing as a guaranteed way to do something that's inherently unfamiliar. No such thing. But the mind wants the right thing. That's why we buy a lot of the things that we buy, whether it's concepts or programs, because they've sold us the idea that this is the right thing. So this industry is more crowded with that level of uncertainty than we've ever seen before. There's more competition. There's more marketers. There's better marketers. There's better marketing. There's more restrictive algorithms. Like, everything is more intense, and it's not going to stop. Like, we're on a path that's going to continue with everything that I just said. There's going to continue to be more and more competition. So the lack of certainty that you have internally is going to create more overwhelm externally, and it's going to create more anxiety, and it's going to create less commitment. So my invitation to you is to change the definition of right so that you're seeking what is aligned for you, not what is guaranteed for you. This is one of the biggest concepts that I want you to buy right now. I want you to buy the concept that if you haven't succeeded yet, or at the level that you want to succeed at, it's not that you are the wrong ingredient, it's that you're following the wrong recipe. Wrong being defined as misaligned, right being defined as aligned. There is a recipe for you. Most people are bouncing around from pre-made recipes to guarantees, to assembly lines, to tactics and templates. And none of those were built for you. There are ingredients, there are clues that we can get, absolutely. but nobody has built a recipe specifically designed for you, because if you can see the recipe, it's not your recipe. If the recipe involves your evolution, if the recipe involves your growth, there can't be a recipe that's your recipe if it's already known, because your recipe is yet unknown. So we need to change the way we are even searching for our internal judgments of right and wrong, and what we see out there as warning signs or welcome signs that we are on the quote unquote right path. And what I will promise all of you, especially if you're still listening to this, 40 plus minutes in, if this is landing for you, then what I'm about to say is almost guaranteed to be true for you. You are most likely on the right path, but you've convinced yourself you're on the wrong path. Or you've convinced yourself you are wrong. So therefore, you need to be fixed in order for the right path to work for you. The reason this is really critical is that most people are actually doing this process of growth and evolution the right way. They're just miserable because they've convinced themselves that it's the wrong way, or that it's taking too long, or they're not experiencing what they're supposed to be experiencing here. So what I want you to know is that there are no ingredients that will take a wrong recipe and make it right if the most important ingredient is wrong. One of my family members, she's passed on now, so rest in peace. She was famous in our family for making cinnamon rolls, and everybody used to just fawn over the cinnamon rolls. Like, oh, have you had that? I was like people wouldn't eat for hours because they wanted to have room for more cinnamon rolls. And she always delivered, except one time. One time, everybody was all excited and everybody got their cinnamon rolls. And then, their first bite was just like, something's off here. And then they took a second bite. And then the third bite is like, then they put the cinnamon rolls down. And then we started looking around like, this is bad, right? So it turns out, instead of sugar, she put flour in the recipe, because she just saw a white substance and she just took that and threw it in there and thought it was sugar, and then put more powder, or flour. Did I say powder? Flour. She took more flour and put it on top of and then it was awful. At that point, there's nothing she can add to that recipe. You can't substitute flour for sugar and then have anything else that's added to it and make that okay. That is just a throw the batch away and start over again. The reason I bring that up is you are the right recipe. I'm sorry, you are the right ingredient. You're the most valuable ingredient. You're the most important ingredient. If the recipe is wrong, the recipe needs to change around you. The ingredients need to change around you, but they have to be based on you. And most people are not doing that for all kinds of reasons. They're just not doing that. We don't like people getting in our business. We don't like looking at ourselves. We don't like the discomfort that we feel when we do all that stuff. We've been programmed to devalue ourselves. We don't think we're all that valuable, especially the stuff that we take for granted. So there's all kinds of reasons that we don't believe that we are the most valuable ingredient. And what I'm telling you is there is no overcompensation strategy that's going to overpower misalignment. You can take the best 7-figure template. You can take the campaign that works well for somebody else. And if it's not aligned for you, nothing is going to work at the level that you want it to work. And part of that is fulfillment and passion and stuff that you feel really, really good at. I mean, think about this. If you think that the recipes are all right, but you're wrong, then you got to change yourself to put the quote unquote right ingredient into the right recipe. You guys, I mean, isn't that prostitution? Isn't that changing yourself based on something or somebody else? That's what so many people are doing in life. And that's what a lot of people are doing in coaching. And what makes me sad actually is that there are a lot of people who have a ton of value, but they just keep trying to put inauthentic versions of themselves in all these recipes that work for other people. They just weren't created for them. So I want you to focus more on alignment. But alignment requires clarity. Alignment requires introspection. Alignment requires action. Alignment requires a lot of the things that you might be trying to avoid. And that's why so many people have to shift the way they're thinking, shift the way they're in business in order for their business to work. So I see what you just sent me, Michelle. Won't that model implode or explode at some point? And then there's some Phoenix type stuff. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not following that because I don't know exactly when it was said. You want to come on in? Why don't you come on in and speak to that? Michelle, everybody.
Hi, everybody. So I posted in response the way that I understood the question. Like I have to think so, right? Like that eventually the way that we're consuming right now, kind of like the caterpillar, right? Before it transforms into the butterfly, right? Like I have to believe that at some point in time, the consumption will explode. And I also believe that it's up to us as consumers, right? That we have to actually value something different. So we have to stop chasing the sexy things. We have to stop chasing the cat videos, right? We have to stop chasing the virality. We have to stop chasing those posts, and we have to start actually seeking the foundational principles. We have to start with our purchasing, right? With what we buy, with what we are seeking. It's up to us as consumers to start to demand more, because I don't actually have any kind of blame or bad feelings for any of the marketers, because they're profiting off of what we are craving and what we are demanding. So I do believe it can change. And I believe it's up to us in what we are expecting in order to be the catalyst for that change. You're muted.
Thank you. Well said. I believe all of that as well. One of the things that's at the core of the problem here is that by the nature of us being human, we generally are looking for static rules that are going to apply all the time. But we're not static people. We're not static animals. The human society is not static. The market is not static. So if you're searching for static rules to complex people and situations, you'll never find them, especially if we're talking about the surface level stuff. Like, what are we actually doing? I do think there are static rules if we go deep enough, and it's less rules and it's more laws. There are laws about human behavior. There are laws about attention. There are laws about creating connection. Those are laws. But what most people are doing is searching for the rules. What is it that I do on social media? How do I say what it is that I'm going to say in order to get the success that I want to get? And all of those things are valid questions. You know, in the conversation about alignment, I want to be really clear that a lot of coaches are choosing the right thing, but just at the wrong time. You might be learning 6th grade stuff, but you're in 3rd grade. When you're ready for that, then yeah, it's right. It's the right thing to do. But if you try to get out in front of yourself too much because you're excited about that stuff, but you haven't built the foundation in order to be ready for that stuff or in order to make it sustainable, then you've got a situation where it's right, but wrong timing. And it's really difficult to discern that for most people, I would say, to notice, it's easier to discern between something that's right and wrong versus something that's right now or right later. So this discernment piece and alignment is really critical. You as a coach, let me separate you as the human inside of this conversation. You either have confidence and certainty or you don't. If you don't have confidence and certainty, that's your next step. And I would actually go all in the confidence and certainty path before you keep trying to market and be successful and get clients. One of the problems, I think, in the coaching industry is that so much of the marketing and so much of the sales out there is focused on getting clients. There's not a whole lot focused on getting good as a coach. There's not a whole lot focused on how to change people's lives. It's mostly how to get their money. And I'm not saying that the people, and we teach that too, right? We are in a lot of the roles that we're speaking about. We have certification programs, we have marketing programs, we have private coaching programs. We want to help people get clients. We want to help people build businesses. We are vendors to the coaching market in many ways. So the fact that people are teaching this stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. We teach a lot of this stuff. But you have to understand where it starts, right? You have to understand the most important ingredient, like we've been talking about. And one of the most important ingredients is certainty and confidence, because that's an energy thing. If you don't have certainty and confidence in the transformational game, almost nobody is going to purchase what you're trying to offer unless you switch to information, which a lot of people end up doing. There's a lot of coaches. I can tell the truth here, right? There's a lot of coaches that don't make any money until they start teaching coaches how to make money. By teaching coaches how to make money, there's a pyramid scheme component to the coaching industry where a lot of people are only making money by teaching people how to make money, by selling a product that teaches people how to make money. And I'm just saying that from an acknowledgement standpoint. Again, I want to highlight what Michelle said. Like, I don't have anger or disdain toward the people that are doing that, because we have such a desire to succeed that if we're on a certain path and we can't succeed that way, but this looks like it will lead to success, we're going to take a shot over there almost all the time, because we want to succeed. We want to feel like we're a winner. We want our goals, right? And so if we don't think that this can work, then we're going to try the thing that does work. But my point in saying this is that a lot of people shift from wanting to do transformational work to then doing what works from a success standpoint, which goes more toward information, because their confidence and certainty isn't required as much if you're just selling information. People are not purchasing you as the deliverer or the facilitator when you're selling information more as a commodity, like they are if you're selling transformation. So if you're in the transformational game, the lack of certainty that you have will show up. And pretty much all of us at some point in time tried to sell something that we thought people are going to jump for and have a lot of excitement about because this is going to change their life. And what we got is the exact opposite, reaction to that. So if you've experienced that, I want to say this not tongue in cheek and not demeaning, but congratulations, because you've checked off one of the boxes that you have to check off if you're going to succeed. There are certain hurdles that you have to get over, but most people are trying to avoid them. That's not the way to succeed in any kind of growth endeavor. So if you don't have the certainty in yourself or the product, and you are a part of the product, but the skill set, then that's what you've got to do. Now, if you're interested in looking at any of the stuff that we have or the certification programs that we have 3 levels. We have an online program called BCC. If you're brand new to coaching or you're brand new to us, that's where I would start. You can take a look at the link that's there. And then we have another level, which is a 5-day certification program, which is coming up in April. So those of you that are already in BCC or you might want to get to that level, you can plan. It's April 10th, 11th through the 15th. So those are our, and I like to call them certification programs, not certification programs, because nobody's going to buy your certification. They're not going to buy the certificate on the wall. They're going to buy your certainty. And we created this program and teach this program and facilitate this program to create certainty, not just a certification. Because let me tell you what, there's a lot of certified coaches with no clients. And there's a lot of coaches with clients that don't have certifications, but they have certainty. So the certification on its own is not the thing that will cause people to hire you. It's the certainty. So if that's your next step, then take a look at whether it's our program or somebody else's program, but you have to have certainty in the product, because if you haven't been sold on the product, if you're not sold on the product, then you're not going to be able to sell the product, because people can tell, like, why would I sell the thing that you haven't even bought? And you're the thing. Like, you haven't even bought you. A lot of people can't recognize that's what they're thinking, but that's the energetic repulsion that's going on for a lot of people. So let's say you have certainty in the product and you have certainty in the deliverer of the product. What's next? Now we got to look at the path. And there are a million variables on the path, whether it's social media platforms you should use, different ways that you can create online programs, private coaching programs, pricing, how you should deliver your messaging, if you should be doing live talks or affiliate marketing or email marketing. Like, there's a million variables that can go into this. If you don't have certainty in yourself and the product, then all of those variables just got exploded. All of those variables are now exaggerated because they're built upon lack of certainty. So the lack of certainty will make everything harder. But even if you have the certainty, that doesn't mean everything's easy, because there's still a bunch of variables. And one of the things that I want to speak to is the requirement for ignorant action. The requirement for ignorant action. See, we don't have a good relationship to ignorance. And part of that is hardwired. We fear what we don't know. At a survival level, we're afraid of being killed by things we don't know. So we want to know what's in the environment. We want to know what the weather is going to be like. We want to make sure there's shelter and food and all those things. But that's not what holds most of us back. I've never met anybody in the coaching world that says, like, they're literally afraid of getting murdered if they go out, right? It's not an actual physical survival thing, but it operates like it. It operates in a similar way. So we fear the unknown. The problem with that is there's no such thing as growth without leaning into the unknown. There's no such thing as known growth or familiar growth or comfortable growth. It doesn't exist. You cannot be familiar with the thing that inherently is you leaning into what you're unfamiliar with. So you've got to change your relationship to ignorance, what you don't know and what you need to know. Because the reality is you probably need to know a lot less than you think you need to know in order to take action. You're ready sooner than you think you are. But as long as you're waiting to feel ready, chances are you won't feel ready. So you're either going to delay your progress or you're not even going to take action. But this idea of ignorant action, I want to dissect this at another level here. The muscles that you need to build in your growth, especially as an entrepreneur, not just will involve ignorant action, they require ignorant action. There are certain lessons that you can only learn if you don't know how it's going to turn out. To where if you know that this path is going to be safe because you know what it's going to produce and you know how to prepare for and all that stuff, there are lessons you can't learn on that path. Because the fact that it's known excludes the lesson that needs to be learned. And those muscles that can only be built with ignorant action are the most important ones, you guys. They're the most important ones. So if you're trying to avoid the required lessons, your muscles won't be built so that when you do need to rest on the wings, let's say, to go back to that butterfly analogy and the caterpillar, if you need the wings, but you don't allow the wings to actually get formed inside the cocoon because it's uncomfortable to you and you cut yourself out of the cocoon sooner, then you're going to try to fly and fall to your beautiful butterfly death. I've never thought about a butterfly falling to its death. There's something really strange about that. Maybe because I've never seen a butterfly fall from the sky. I don't know. But if your muscles that are required are not built, then it's actually worse for you to go into action. Because they're going to fail you. Your body's going to fail you. Your mind is going to fail you. So instead of focusing on the future certainty, which is what almost everybody's focusing on, what's going to work for me? What's the thing that I should do? What pricing should I use? What platform? How long should my videos be? What should I do? A YouTube channel or a podcast? All this, what should I do in the future so that I can avoid failure line of questioning is the exact opposite of ignorant action that I'm telling you, you need more of to build the muscles that need to be built. A better line of questioning is what did work for you? You're going to find better answers in exploring what did work versus what will work. But you won't give yourself permission to put anything in motion ignorantly when you don't know what's going to work if you demand the kind of certainty that the intellect is looking for, which is essentially, I'm not going to fail. The certainty that serves you much better than that is the certainty in yourself. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit here and talk about a program that we've got coming up that I think will help all of you. But Michelle, is there anything you want to add to any of this?
Yeah, yes, to all of that. I mean, we and I'm not saying any of this like it's an easy thing to do, but we have to teach our bodies to be able, like we have to build that resiliency in our body and teach ourselves to be able to process the perceived failure and the real failure without actually taking any ownership of what it means about us personally, right? That's required inside of this journey. And, you talked about like the fall of the butterfly, which actually sounds like really beautiful and dramatic. But the reality is that if we do cut the butterfly out of the cocoon too early, there is no fall because there is no flight. The struggle to get out of the chrysalis is actually what pushes the fluid out of the body of the butterfly and builds the strength in the wings. It's the struggle. So if we go in there with like our little scalpel and we try to rescue the butterfly because we feel bad that it's struggling, we actually stunt it from ever being able to get off of the ground. And the same is true for us. It's true for you. It's also true for your clients. And we need to understand this for our own selves. And I say understand it. I don't mean like you get it up here in the brain. I mean like you got it in your body. You know this because the same concept Sean spoke about earlier at the beginning of this video, right? That, this is going to be specifically toward coaches. And the same concepts apply to all of us who are trying to do something. And I believe that anybody who hires you to coach is trying to accomplish something in their life, or they wouldn't have a reason to hire you. So they're going to be going through the same process. And so it's important for us to understand this as well, and the power of that struggle, because it is where we build that strength. And we need to know that so that we can lead that and teach that.
Yeah, I like that there isn't a fall if there isn't a fly. I think you misunderstood my analogy. In my analogy, you cut the cocoon and then slam it down. That was the vision that I had.
Got it.
So there is a fall. There's a splat is what there is. The butterfly analogy is actually really, really profound. We won't dive into all of it now, because to truly understand it and how it relates to our journey as humans and coaches specifically, it'll just take longer. So the idea, though, that we are building muscles, and those muscles are built through failure. It's like regular muscles, like our physical muscles. The way you build muscles is you tear them down. And the best way for your muscles to build strong is to go to failure, meaning whatever exercise you're doing, you go till you can't do it anymore. That muscle is going to build back stronger and quicker for the most part. And the concept is the same if we're building even conceptual muscles, that they're built through tension. They're built through adversity. Specifically, this point we're making now is they're built through ignorant action. And I'm going to be blunt here for a second. Only a second, though. Then I'm going to go back to unblunt. If you don't have the level of commitment to take ignorant action, then I believe you don't deserve the clients. Like, you have to have a level of commitment that will get you to go over the obstacles and go over the hills and build the muscles you need to build. And I'm not saying deserve from like a judgmental, you're not good enough kind of way. Your actions don't deserve the outcomes that you're looking for. It's like if you don't go to the gym, your body doesn't deserve the muscles that going to the gym could produce, because you're just not doing the work that's required in order to produce that stuff. So there were a couple comments I want to speak to briefly. I think Joy said, is there even such a thing as failure? Is it just a perception? Yeah, I'm going to hit on that in a little bit, actually here in a moment. Failure is just a construct of the human mind. The same thing that somebody relates to as failure, somebody else might not relate to as failure. So failure is something that we create. And the good news is we can stop creating that perception of failure, especially when failure is more of an identity than just an event. You can fail at an experiment and the experiment is a failure, but what most people do is then say the experimenter is a failure. Therefore, we take on the identity of a failure, and then that's what we got to jump over to get to the next action. We got to pick ourselves back up from being knocked down as a failure. rather than just, oh, the thing that I tried didn't produce the results that I want, so then let me try something else, right? And fear itself and failure itself are much deeper concepts. So we'll continue to dive into those another time. The other question was from, our comment was from Bree, and it says, if people are trusting less, hearing different, and communication has changed, what are the changes in the actual coaching itself that must change? Are there changes we should look at in how we coach? Yes. As a transformational coach, we need to embrace a lot of the stuff that we've been saying, and because of that, adjust in certain ways. We need to focus on different things. I'm going to give you one thing now, but there's a whole section that we'll get to later on in this broadcast, and I'll dive into it a little bit further. But one thing is, you've got to focus more on experiences. You got to give people an experience of change. Most people have an expectation of change, but they never have an experience of change. And because people now trust the expectations less, you can get around that lack of trust in the expectations by not selling expectations. Sell experiences. Offer experiences, because people don't distrust their experiences as much as they distrust their expectations. So before we go any further, we're going to talk about the inner game and relationships to various things that are important for us to grow along this journey. I want to tell you a few things about, or a few things that we have coming up. First of all, we've got YouTube memberships now. We've had them for a little while, but really haven't put a whole lot of time in telling you about. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, or you're subscribed to YouTube, or haven't yet subscribed to YouTube, you can go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We got a few different membership levels. There's a $2 level, $1.99, and that just helps support the channel a little bit. And you get like cool little badges when you comment on the videos and stuff like that. And we really appreciate any kind of support that you want to give. We've got a second level that's basically $10, and we give a little bit more, kind of like day in the life sort of videos, and we do polls, and we try to align some of the videos that we put out with what our members are telling us that we should create. So you basically help us co-create some of the content. And then the highest level of membership is just under $50 a month. And that's a lot more individual support. Like we just did a breakdown of Renee, who's on the broadcast right now. I see you commenting, Renee. We just did a breakdown of a couple of her videos. We watched them and helped her with our advice of what the thing is that really jumps out to us as she does her videos. We do channel audits or platform audits. Sometimes we took a look at somebody's funnel and gave them our advice. And we also do demos and dissection of the coaching demos a lot more at that level. So there's a lot more internal, not internal, intimate is what I meant to say. There's a lot more intimate and even private, meaning like specific focus. Like we were all focused on Renee's stuff in the video that we did the other day at that level. So if that's something that you want to try, then you do that on YouTube. You can click the join button on YouTube and decide which one is best. You can, if you're not on YouTube or you just want to go to it off platform or something, you can go to the link that we just put in there now, bit.ly/Sean Smith membership, bit.ly/Sean Smith membership. It'll just take you directly to that YouTube, that YouTube page that explains the memberships. This next thing I want to talk to you about, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it right now. I just kind of want to tell you what we've got coming up in the future. You're going to see our videos are going to be focused a lot on helping people change their identity. You know, I just said the identity of a failure is one of the biggest things that people need to overcome. If you're trying to build a business, you have to have a business identity. And even more so than that, you've got to have an entrepreneurial identity. The reason I believe after all these years and doing so much private coaching and doing so many programs with people that end up just not being able to follow along, or, the programs that start out as 50 people end up with 4 people. We've been studying the process of growth, specifically in the coaching industry. I've got a love for people who want to be coaches. Coaching has changed my life fundamentally. So I'm a product of the product. And what we've really honed in on is maybe the most important reason that people don't succeed is because they never shift into the identity of an entrepreneur. You can learn the rules of the entrepreneurial game. If you don't have the mind of an entrepreneur, then you'll sabotage everything. You'll sabotage even the stuff that's right for you, that's aligned for you. Your employee mind, your reactionary mind, your chasing mind, your transactional mind will mess everything up if you don't have the identity of an entrepreneur. So we've never done this program before because we've never had this level of clarity that not only do we need to make this shift, but there's a certain way to make that shift. Identity changes. I don't know if you know anything about this, Michelle, but identity changes are a little bit of a different game than information consumption.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit. And our identities will repel all the information that doesn't match what the identity's commitment is.
That's right.
So most people have an employee mindset, but they're trying to play the entrepreneurial game. Until your employee mindset changes, you cannot win.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, you cannot win. And I very rarely use universals because universals are always wrong. This time it's right. You cannot win. You'll either lose by failure or you'll lose by success.
Ooh.
And losing by success is actually worse, because if you find a way to succeed with the employee mind in an entrepreneurial endeavor, you cannot succeed as yourself.
Right.
You cannot succeed in an aligned way that fulfills you. You can make money, but if it's not aligned with your authentic self, you cannot experience fulfillment. And so that's why I say it's actually worse to lose by success than it is to lose by failure, because when you succeed but don't feel fulfilled and you lose the passion for the business, or you don't even like the business at all, trust me, I've talked to a lot of people, and in my journey, I've been in this place where I hated my own business. I hated the creation. I didn't like the energy. I didn't like the tension. I didn't like the pressure. I didn't like it. And there's been times when I wanted to leave it. If you don't build upon alignment, the only thing that's even possible is resentment.
Yeah.
In some way. So I would rather you lose by failure and then learn how to change the recipe than for you to lose by success, because then you have to take down everything that succeeded and then start in the same place that if you've lost by failure, you're already at. Meaning, if you haven't built a skyscraper yet, then the skyscraper doesn't have to come down.
Right.
If you have built a skyscraper, it's got to come down first, which is okay. And I'd rather you learn that and actually intentionally bring it down and destroy what's not aligned with you so that you can build from a different place of alignment. So that's okay. And that can be done also. But if you're aligned from the start, I would rather you not succeed and not build anything on top of the foundation that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So this program is going to be a long program. And we're not just going to be talking about, hey, you should think like an entrepreneur. We're going to walk you through a lot of steps. We're going to put you through experiences that give you the embodied entrepreneurial shifting. because you've got to be an entrepreneur in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. It's all got to be aligned. But that is not the flip of a switch. That takes a process, because so much of this is about unlearning, not learning.
Yeah.
We overvalue learning and undervalue unlearning. We need to unlearn the stuff that's keeping us from being aligned. We need to unlearn the habits that shifted us from who we really were in the first place. I believe that we were all produced as entrepreneurs. I believe that we were born entrepreneurs, but then we were programmed into being employees. And I don't just mean getting a job as a career. I mean as employees, meaning transactional. Somebody tell you what to do and then you do it, or somebody trains you and then you do something and you get something. And this transactional linear kind of agreement, that's more of a function of our programming, not who we really are. So the good news is none of you have to learn how to be an entrepreneur. You have to unlearn how to be an employee. Not that you'll lose all of those lessons that you've learned, but this is about going back to how you were produced in the first place, going back into alignment. So we're calling this Entrepreneur School for Coaches. We don't have a sales page. We don't have a product. If some of you wanted to buy it right now, you can't, because there's really no way to do it. But if you know this is something that you're interested in, you can put yourself on the interest list. You can go to bit.ly.com or bit.ly/eSchool4Coaches. All lowercase, no dashes or spaces, eSchool4Coaches. You see it on the screen right there. Go there, and there's an opt-in where you can put your name and email address and be on the interest list, so that when we start rolling it out, you'll know about it. And one final thing before we get back into this content. So we're about to launch this program. And when we launch a program, it takes multiple weeks, the way we do it. And some people misunderstand, I think, what goes into launches. For any of you that want to watch my launch, we have an opportunity for you to watch my launch. So you can go, that's bit.ly watch my launch, right? So bit.ly, bit.ly/watch my launch is another opportunity if you want to watch what we're doing. And so what that means is we'll let you know our plan. We'll let you know, like, I'll do videos and explain some of the strategy and the shifting. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. The success of a launch is determined much, much more on the in-game adjustments than pre-game preparation. So you can have all the strategy laid out. Your launch won't go as planned. What are you going to do in-game? And I'll do videos for you guys and let you know what we're thinking and what we're adjusting and why, and let you know what some of the goals are and some of the results are and all that kind of stuff. So it's a behind the scenes look into launching the way we do it. Now, I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but it's the way we do it. And I think there will be things for you to learn, because we're selling transformation. And so if you're also selling your version of transformation, then hopefully it'll be helpful to see how we're doing it. And I think one of the things that you'll find is that a lot of the expectations that you probably have will tell you how wrong they are. I don't want to go any deeper on that right now, because I just felt a lot of pain come up, by the way. A lot of expectations that go unmet. Anyway, is there anything you want to add to that before we get back into the content here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're a coach and you're selling anything, program, products, jump on this, watch my launch. Just the value of actually seeing somebody who's willing to keep it real and be honest with you about what's actually going on will truly help you manage your expectations and maybe avoid a little bit of the pain that Sean just felt in his body.
Yes, exactly. I'm over here looking at some of the comments that are just on YouTube. So I appreciate you guys commenting
Yeah, they're great.
over there. All right. So we are an hour and a half in. Let's talk about what's working and what's not working. Actually, I skipped over a section there. Let's talk a little bit more about the inner game and what you've got to understand about you. This is going to be high level because the depth of what I'm about to say requires a lot of time and ignorant action and adjusting and all kinds of stuff. That's not just, consumable information. Like one of the things that Michelle said earlier is I get it and I got it. There's a big difference between those two things. Most people think I get it is all we need. That just means that intellectually you understand something. But that level of intellectual understanding is way different than embodied understanding. One of the concepts that are going to be really important in your growth is understanding that knowledge does not equal understanding. Mm-hmm. Just because you know something intellectually doesn't mean you know it neurologically. And the more that you know something intellectually, the more frustrating it probably gets if you don't know it neurologically. So embodied mastery level learning is just a different game. But the great news is that you arrive at certainty and confidence and a lot of the milestones along the way faster, actually, than if you were to just try to consume a bunch of knowledge intellectually. So it might feel like you're going slower, but you're actually going faster in terms of the long game, long term, and how you can build what you need to build both internally and externally. So when it comes to changing this identity to an entrepreneurial one, the biggest concept that you need to get and you need to confront is your relationship to the things you're probably trying to avoid. Your relationship to fear, your relationship to doubts, your relationship to failure, your relationship to judgment, internal judgment about your stuff that sucks, external judgment about your stuff that other people say sucks, your relationship to vulnerability, your relationship to visibility, your relationship to lack of money, your relationship to abundance of money, your relationship to difficult stuff, your relationship to easy stuff. It's really about changing your relationship to the things because those things can't change. All of those things are baked into the fabric of entrepreneurship. Those things are in the pavement. They're not obstacles on the pavement that you can avoid. They're in the pavement. So you can't avoid them, but you can change your relationship to them so that they no longer own you. Most people are owned by the things that they fear. Most of us are owned by the things we're trying to avoid. And as long as the things you're trying to avoid own you, you're obviously going to have a lot less commitment. You're going to have a lot less passion. You're going to have a lot less resilience. You're going to have a lot less of the things that you need, especially when the things that own you are required shifts that you need to make. So not only are you stuck because you're trying to avoid stuff, but the stuff you're trying to avoid are the answers. The stuff that you're trying to avoid is the required learning that you've got to go through. So think about that for a second, you guys. If you believe what I just said, that what most of us are trying to avoid is the required learning, then what that means is your enemy is what's required of you. That means that we've turned the thing that we need into the enemy that we're trying to avoid. There is no scenario where that works out well. There just isn't one. But the good news is we can shift that. We can shift the relationship so that these things are no longer enemies, but we can only do that internally. That's an inside out process. You can't actually make all the danger, the potential failure in society, people's judgments. You can't make that stuff go away. You can't wave a magic wand and have no fear around the stuff that you got to go through. But you can have a magical shift inside you, what feels like magic, to where the things that used to be dangerous are no longer dangerous. They didn't change, you changed. As long as you're wanting everything around you to change because everything around you is dangerous, then you are actually what's dangerous. Because everywhere you go, you perceive everything as danger.
Oh my gosh.
So no matter where you go, you're the most dangerous ingredient. But the opposite is true. When you can change your relationship to the things that you perceive as dangerous, now no matter where you go, you're the most powerful ingredient. But that's a 180 complete fundamental shift that has to happen. But when it does, it's liberating. But it can't happen through just the mind. That won't happen through intellect. It won't happen through motivation. It won't happen through safety. But it can happen. And it also doesn't mean that it's got to be this, like, drag yourself through the misery of all your past failures and traumas and experience all the pain all at once. It doesn't have to be that way. In fact, I've never seen it have to be that way, but most people have convinced themselves that it will be that way.
Right.
Like, a lot of people have convinced themselves that this inner game journey is so dangerous or so painful that it would be better to just play the overcompensation game for the rest of their lives. Man, I felt that one.
It's sad.
So you have the ability to change your relationship to the things that can't change. One of the things that you learn in NLP, if you've studied NLP, is a concept that I never really fully understood until just a couple years ago. The concept is that the map is not the territory. What that means is the territory is what's actually true. The map is how we relate to the territory. So we might have a miserable map, but the territory itself isn't full of misery. The territory itself is what it is, but we can change our experience of the map. We can change our experience of and our relationship to the territory. But you can't change the territory. There's a territory of entrepreneurship that is unchangeable. But you can change your relationship to what's required and therefore climb some of the highest mountains that you thought you couldn't even climb, and see things and create things and achieve things that you didn't think was even possible. So that's the great news. And everybody can do this. The reason I say that is because everybody can unlearn something.
Right.
If you believe what I said, that we were all produced as little entrepreneurs trying to figure out this world, trying to learn how to walk, trying to learn how to put stuff in our mouth so we can feed ourselves, trying to learn how to tie these damn shoes. If you believe that we were born as entrepreneurs and we operated and lived as entrepreneurs for a decent amount of time before somebody came in and programmed that stuff out of us and taught us that failure is something to be ashamed of, or we are something to be ashamed of, or our body is something to hide, or visibility is dangerous. All of that stuff is learned. The things that are stopping you are learned fears. So the good news is, if you learned them, you can unlearn them.
That's right.
But you're not going to overcompensate for them and then outpower them. It's not going to work. Speaking of how it works, I want to talk a little bit, maybe 10 minutes or so on this section about what I've seen that's working in the coaching industry and what I've seen that's no longer working as well in the coaching industry. And well, that's as much as a preamble as I want to give it. So what's working? Social media is working the way that social media is designed to work. And if you have alignment, then two of the platforms that I've seen that are kind of exploding, they're relatively newer platforms, I guess. TikTok. I've heard a small number of coaches succeed with TikTok, but the ones that are succeeding in a big, big way. Mm-hmm. There's just something about TikTok. And I'm sure you've all seen TikTok videos being shared on all the other platforms. So TikTok is now very pervasive in the social media universe. So if that's an aligned thing for you, then check it out. It's a completely different animal. It's a completely different playground. And so you got to learn how to do it. I haven't committed to learning how to do it, so I can't talk from experience, but just what I've observed and what I've talked to people about. Instagram is huge and it's massive. I don't know what the numbers are. I didn't look at the numbers, but again, if it's aligned and you're committed to it and you want to do it, then Instagram has a lot of engagement. Now, I don't think all coaches should be doing what's working. I don't think most coaches should be doing TikTok. I don't think most coaches should necessarily be doing Instagram. But for those of you that are aligned with it, it's working. Here's something that surprised me. I just learned this today, actually, to the point where I questioned the numbers that Michelle sent over to me because, like, that can't be true. Email marketing for us. I can't speak across the board. This is like 8 hours old to me, so I didn't look into and talk to anybody else. Hey, are you seeing this too? But Michelle sent some numbers over to us about the number of people that have opened up some of the emails that we've sent recently. And she said the numbers are down. And it was like 18% open rate. And that's down. And I went, down? That's like phenomenally high. Because what I've been operating under, which I recognize I haven't even really looked at or talked to anybody about for a few years now, is that email open rates are 12, 13% or so. And that's what our open rates were for a long time. But our open rates are a lot higher now. Our open rates are hovering close to 20%. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Most people's expectations, that means 4 out of 5 people that are on your email list that asked you to send them emails aren't opening your emails. Mm-hmm. That's cause for misery. If you look at it a certain way, I'm over here celebrating the fact that we almost get 1 out of 5 people opening the emails. That's amazing. Right. Now, as I looked into that just a little bit, I haven't dove deep yet. All this stuff is stuff that we'll share inside of eSchool, and some of this we'll share and watch my launch. We've been a lot more aligned and a lot more consistent for a long time, and a lot of people that are watching our YouTube videos, then joining our list, are getting exactly what they're opting in for. Right. They're coming from YouTube and getting emails about going to YouTube and getting emails about conversations that they opted into specifically. So we've got a lot of alignment in that arena, and I'm positive that's one of the reasons why we've got a lot more people opening the emails. What happens is if you offer something, like if you use a certain magnet to attract people and then change what you're going to send to them, or their expectations are different, most of them are either not going to open the emails or just get off your list. So a lot of people are focused on how can I get people on the list, but that doesn't matter if there's not consistency through the whole process, if there's not alignment through the whole process. I'd rather you have nobody on your list than a bunch of people on your list that aren't opening your emails because they don't know what your emails are going to have in it, or they don't know who you are and they don't really understand what to expect when they do open the emails. So when people are opening our emails because they've gone up, here's what I think is true. I think it's because they know exactly what they're going to open. They know what they're going to find in that email. So there's no missed expectations when they open the email. They're like, what is this about? I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. Now there's a downside to that. The downside is people can get fatigued if it's only the same message over and over and over again. So how can you switch things up? How can you include your personality and make it fun or passionate and stuff like that? But consistency is a huge piece. And so that's what is working, and that will never stop working. You've got to be consistent. It would be better for you to send one email every 2 weeks than 3 emails this week and 1 email next week, and then no emails for 3 weeks, and then 5 emails the next week. Consistency is more important than intensity.
Right.
Consistency is much more important, because when we get motivated, this happens in like in the gym, right? You get motivated, you could work out for 5 hours, but it'd actually be better for you to work out 30 minutes for 2 weeks than 1 day for 5 hours. And the same thing happens when we're building our habits, but also the expectations from our community. So consistency is always going to be there. Alignment, we've already talked about. Alignment is critical. So that's becoming more important than it ever was, I believe. Not just alignment for ourselves, but alignment for the expectations and alignment to the desires of our clients and customers. I'm not going to dive deep into these next pieces, but transparency, authenticity, realness, those are becoming more and more and more important, especially because people trust less. Yeah. So the more transparent you are, the easier it's going to be for people to trust you, because they actually see themselves in you. The more authentic you are, the easier it's going to be for people to like you, either as a person or what you teach or just the experience, because we actually crave authenticity. Yeah. The world is becoming less and less authentic, I think, especially online. So the more authentic you can be, the better it is for you. I think the other piece that the YouTube generation and TikTok and Snapchat have created little monsters around is that we love behind the scenes stuff. We love to watch people in t-shirts. We love to see the shaky videos. Like 10 years ago, people didn't like all the shaky videos. They wanted highly produced stuff. They wanted more professional, like good lighting. And then especially over the last couple of years, all of that has been taken away, like with our news channels and a lot of the things that used to be produced in studios. Now people are doing it in their homes. You know, we're seeing kids in the background or kitchens in the background, and all of that is now, or dogs. Yeah. All of that is now becoming the expectation.
Right.
So we have a society now that wants real behind the scenes, behind the mind, inside the mind. Give me your authentic human experience. Because if you don't, there's way too many other things that I could be paying attention to waste any time here, unless I'm going to get something real. Yeah. I think very soon that is going to be a filtering variable, meaning if you don't do that, people will stop paying attention to you. I think it's going to be a demand in the very near future, to the point where it's a deal breaker. If you're not willing to do that, almost nobody's going to pay attention to you. Now, there are, you know, how authenticity and transparency shows up on a blog article is different than on a video, is different than on a podcast. So there's different applications of that. But I just really think, and I really hope, that human society is going to start demanding as a deal breaker authenticity, transparency, and realness from their leaders. Now, I'd really love if that gets into political leaders and religious leaders and community leaders and society leaders and family leaders, right? I would love that to be a standard that goes all the way up. And it can, because when the people change, it's like news would change its programming if we stopped paying attention to the stuff they're feeding us now. When we change our appetite, they'll change what's on the menu. They actually respond to what we consume. But you can't tell them to stop giving what we're consuming. We have to stop consuming it, and then they'll change, especially when money's on the line. When they start losing money, changes happen. But we need to pull out of the money transaction in the first place. And we pay a lot of times, not just with our money, but with our attention. So the last thing that's working is individual focus. Not the last thing, but the last thing I want to mention here is individual focus. And again, this has become an expectation, right? I go on Netflix, and Netflix tells me the movies that I would like. And if it's not a 90% match or more, then it's a gamble, right? But Netflix knows my watching patterns. YouTube knows my watching patterns. Google knows my search patterns. And they know all of those patterns for pretty much all of us, unless you've turned all that stuff off. But they're tracking our behaviors and then telling us what we think or what they think we should look at next based on our behaviors. And what's really important to understand about that, it's not based on our desires, it's based on our behaviors, which means it's real information. Now, of course, our desires drive our behaviors, but they're working on our behaviors, which means we've already clicked on certain types of videos. We've already consumed certain things. So it's operating on things that we've already taken action on. And that's just a whole nother level of evidence than things that you tell me you like.
Right.
So because that's become an expectation, we don't have to get to the level of Netflix, those of us that want to be transformational coaches, but we have to give people individual attention because now they expect it. And what that means is we got to get to know them. Like, I feel like Netflix knows me. It's weird to say that. But I think YouTube knows me.
Right.
After all my behavior patterns they've been studying, they know me. And it's weird to think that this inanimate collection of algorithms knows us, but they do. They just know it, they know us artificially. But how can we let people know that we know them, who we want to serve and who we want to potentially offer programs to and who we want to buy our stuff? Like, we got to study them. We really, truly need to get to know them. In order for them to think that we know them, we actually got to know them.
Yes.
And in marketing, I think there are three things, and we've already said two of them, but it's in a different context. There are three sort of phases in the buying process in the transformational coaching marketing, which is I get you, meaning if I am your potential client, I need to know that you get me. So these are the messages that we want them to understand from us. I get you. I, as the marketer, I get you. I understand you. I understand what you're looking for. I understand what your behaviors are. I understand what your desires are. I understand what your fears are. I get you. The second one is, I got you. Come on. I know how to get out of here. I know how to make some of the changes because when I was in your position, these are the changes that I had to make, and I know the power of the changes. I know the power of this product because I'm a product of the product. So I got you. That's the certainty piece. And then the third one is I give you. I give to you. I give you to you. I give energy to you. I give service to you. In the transformational coaching game that I spoke to earlier, there's an intimacy that isn't there when you're selling commodities or information or just transactional stuff. That has to be understood, and you've got to be the one giving to the client. What a lot of people are doing, and sometimes they're doing it like outwardly in terms of the things that they're saying or the things that they're even conscious of. I think most of the time it's more inwardly and they don't really understand. But I'm going to say most coaches, because I think this is true. Most coaches are expecting their clients to give to them when they first haven't given to the client. If I'm a prospect, if I'm one of your seekers and you're demanding that I give to you in the form of money, time, energy before you give to me, those days are ending, you guys. That
That's right.
still works in certain arenas for certain products with certain people and certain sales tactics and certain budgets. That still works in certain areas, but not for transformational coaching. And that's not going to be aligned for almost any of you that pay attention to any of the things that we put out.
Especially early on.
I give you. Especially what?
I said, especially early on, right? Especially early on in your journey as a coach, if you're following somebody else that, you know, what you were just talking about, Sean, with like the big budgets and the big advertising and the big brand names, it might be a little bit different, but when we're first starting out, we're not them.
Right.
So it doesn't work.
Yeah, a lot of people are very frustrated because they're following the leaders, but you're not the leaders because you haven't built the muscles that the leaders have built.
Right.
So I don't have anything against Tony Robbins, but I'm just going to use him because it's a shared person that I think most of you know. If you try to follow what works for Tony Robbins, chances are it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because you're not him. And I'm not saying there's not anything that you can learn in a lot of his programs, but if you just try to follow the leader, that's usually going to be dangerous and damaging and very expensive unless you are in the right place. It all comes down to what we've been saying, unless it's aligned.
Right.
If you just take something that's working for anybody, whether it's the big names or anybody else, and you just try to put it on, there's a chance that it's not aligned for you. So the thing that really works well for somebody might be a disaster for you.
Right.
Because it's just not aligned. So those are some of the things I wanted to highlight that are working well in the coaching industry and that I suggest you do. Let's talk about some of the things that are no longer working as well. One thing that comes to mind immediately is webinars. People just have a little bit of fatigue when it comes to webinars. You know, when they came out 7-8 years ago, people were signing up for this new thing that they could watch whenever they want. And it was awesome. And you get like, you know, 100 people to sign up and like 80 would show up. You know, the show up rates and the stay rates were so long compared to what they are now. Now, what I've heard is the show up rate is like, if you can get 25% of the people to show up to a webinar, you're doing well. Because it's just not, it's not new anymore. Like we're just over it. We just got fatigue. Live videos, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. Remember Periscope? Periscope is what like ushered in this live video craze. And once upon a time, the idea that this other human was on the other side of your phone and they could see your name and you could interact and they can tell you, put a 1 in the comment section if you're with me, and you hit a 1 and they saw it like, oh, and I can hit the little heart. Oh, it's amazing. We're over that. There has to be something that gets our attention more than the novelty of the platform. So it's much harder to get people's engagement on live videos. I think challenges are on the way down. I don't think they're as declining as live videos and webinars are, but I think challenges got so hot and popular recently. Because that's one of the things that happens when marketers figure out something that works. They make a lot of money teaching the thing that they just figured out. And then they create a lot of people that are doing the same thing. And then it creates a lot more supply in the market. Anytime supply increases because a lot more people are doing challenges, then the demand decreases because there's a lot more people doing challenges. There's a lot more of these available. People are more familiar with it. After they've done a bunch of them, there's like, oh, okay, it's just another one of those things that's now old. I don't think challenges are there yet where they're done, but you just got to do them. Like just the idea of a challenge is no longer what's going to get people to sign up for it. Now you got to really engage them at a different level. So you can still do it. We're going to do a challenge in a couple of weeks. You can still do it, but you got to engage them in a different way.
Yeah.
I think hardcore sales funnels are, I don't think this is going to go away for a long time, but it's definitely not working for teachers and introverts and the insecure people that we talked a little bit about. It's not people, you know, just transformational truth doesn't belong in a hardcore sales funnel. This is not the right product, right? Your hardcore sales funnels are built to sell different things. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong, or that the people are mean, or any of those judgments. It's just, it's not the right product. And I can't tell you how many times I've told somebody, you took something and you changed the product. You put your product in their recipe, and that's why it failed.
Right.
Doesn't mean the recipe was wrong. Doesn't mean your product is wrong. It means they're not aligned. So for most people in transformational world, you know, hardcore funnels, whether it's like focused on sending a bunch of private messages on any of the platforms, or it's focused on getting people to put, to opt into something as they're scrolling through Facebook or whatever. All that stuff works, but it works for a different animal and a different product than almost all of you are. So just watch that from afar and go, yay, great. You know, you spend $5,000 and made 15 grand. Yay for you. This is just not what I want to do. Again, it all comes back to alignment, not right or wrong, but alignment. Podcasts. I was kind of sad to hear what you shared earlier, Michelle. So you're really dashing, you know, you're stomping on my butterfly analogies and my podcast love.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead. You want to share what you learned? You want to destroy all the other dreams as well? Not just mine. I'm joking. There's nothing like destroyed here, but it was interesting. It was actually surprising. So I'm joking about the destroying of the dreams, but it was surprising.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in just a moment, because it's not just because something actually isn't working in the way that it used to work doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So I'm going to just plant that seed. But I had read an article on thehustle.com that just talked about the podcast conundrum. And what it is that the number of podcasts that are available is significantly outpacing the number of ears that can listen. So over the last few years in Spotify specifically, their user base grew 84%, but the number of podcasts that are available skyrocketed 1,630%.
So a lot of people are jumping on the podcast train at a faster pace than people are listening to podcasts.
Yeah. And so for listeners, it is a little bit harder for them to discover stuff to listen to. And for podcasters, it's harder to find underserved markets to podcast for. And again, like I don't say any of that to say you shouldn't do a podcast, because that doesn't mean any of that. It just is important for us to understand, like you were talking about at the very beginning of the video, what's actually the territory here, what's the environment that we're actually in and working in. And if you have a specific niche, and if you're speaking to that specific like human, that specific, person, then that's different. If you're doing a podcast because you think it's going to be a hit podcast, and because it's a hit podcast, you're going to be like the Joe Rogan of coaches, and that's going to bring you all of the clients in the world, that might be an expectation that will not be met.
Absolutely. I just noticed over here that on YouTube, when our members post, like they've got little emojis that they can post. And so Renee posted a few emojis, but they don't show up here on StreamYard. Anyway, we're missing out of the YouTube emojis and me. She posted a picture. Is there a picture of me crying? Is that what that one was?
Probably.
There's one grabbing my head.
Looking sad.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that's something to understand, but not to be deterred by.
Right.
And there are other reasons to do a podcast for your own growth, your own evolution of your message, your own relationship to creativity, creativity is another huge thing that we're going to dive into it in eSchool for Coaches. We haven't really talked a whole lot about that yet, but we have to change our understanding of creativity, our relationship to creativity, and how we create, and all that's going to be a huge piece of the program. But there are reasons to do podcasts more than just because it's a novel thing, right? So what Michelle was talking about is just the natural evolution of anything new.
Sure.
There was only a matter of time before that happened, because people wait until they're ready to do a podcast, or they wait until people who are the early adopters and the pioneers teach them how to succeed with their podcast. And a bunch of people buy the podcast programs, and then they start doing that, and then they sell the podcast programs. And pretty soon you're just going to create a lot more competition. That's just how this stuff always works in all industries that, similar to this one, where people can sell how they succeeded.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And it's not a deterrent. But the other thing that I would say is, I said this earlier about social media platforms, the ones that people do listen to, I think they've become even more connected to the podcasts that they do listen to. So there might not be a lot of new people in the podcast world looking for podcasts, but people who are podcast listeners, they have a small number of podcasts that they're pretty religiously committed to.
Right.
And so they're going to listen to those all the time. And if you could get a small group of people that are committed to listening to your podcast, you can do a lot more than a lot of people who are not committed to listening to your podcast. So it's like the quality, quantity sort of idea. And, maybe I hadn't really thought about this, this new conundrum that you just shared, but it could be that there's only a certain amount of podcast listeners available in society, and we've already hit that.
Right.
Or we've hit that level to where the growth of podcast listeners is just going to be more steady and linear, but there's no limit to the people that want to build their business. And so if people are saying you got to do a podcast, or, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, there's just going to be a lot more growth on the suppliers than there are of the demanders, right?
Yeah.
Because I think everything is going to have a saturation level, right? There's only a certain number of people that are going to engage in a certain way, especially when there's so many different ways to engage.
Right.
So again, everything comes back to alignment, right?
Yes.
If a webinar is good for you, do it. And by the way, somebody said, I think it was Bree earlier, mentioned about webinars. How can you deliver a mastermind without doing it on a webinar, I think?
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that. So the kind of webinars I'm talking about, so again, thank you, because I wasn't clear, is like webinar funnels that are designed to sell. Right. So people opt in. I'm going to teach you on this webinar, the 7 ways you can make $1 million yesterday with no effort and with no face. So if you have no face and you don't like to give effort, then this program is for you. Watch my webinar. I'm going to teach you how to make $1 million yesterday. And then people watch the webinar, and there's always a pitch on the webinars that are involved in sales funnels, because there has to be. That's what people have grown fatigue around, I believe. So people quit watching webinars a lot faster than they used to. They know there's a pitch coming. It's got to be really intriguing to them to stick around. Those are the kinds of webinar funnels that I'm talking about. But in terms of like getting people on a Zoom webinar or other platform to deliver, that's not going to go away, because like the world has lived on Zoom or lived on webinar technology for the last couple of years. That kind of delivery webinar, I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But the sales through a webinar, the way I just explained it, that's what I think people have become fatigued around. You also mentioned the other day that Clubhouse has been dropping pretty substantially. So maybe there's a Clubhouse conundrum. Also, it was all the rage for a long time, and I don't know why. I don't even have guesses as to why, but it seems that the listenership and the new people coming on has just hit a little bit of a snag. But I would say the same thing I said about podcasts, because it's kind of, it's like a podcast platform. It's all audio. If you can find a group of people that are on there, you can actually create something really powerful. So we don't want any of you to decide what you should do based on what's working for other people.
Say that again.
Learn what's working from other people, learn what's not working, learn from mistakes, all that stuff. But this is really all about alignment. And the final thing that I want to say that's not working is anything that you won't do is not working.
Ugh.
And anything that doesn't energize you is not working. It's not going to work. It's not going to make you happy. If you just feel like, I got to do Facebook because somebody told me I got to do Facebook because I paid $1,000 for a program, so I need to do Facebook, but I hate Facebook. That shitty energy is going to be everywhere in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Just because something's possible doesn't mean you should do it. Just because you paid for something doesn't mean you should do it once you figure out this actually doesn't energize me, because there are so many things to do. There are so many ways to market yourself. There are so many platforms. There are so many forms of creativity. There are way too many potential options for you to force yourself into any of them that doesn't energize you, that you're not passionate about. What we've learned personally and just watching people in the coaching industry is that passion is way more important than most people think it is. Because passion is not a function of the intellect. Intellect wants the right thing, the smart thing. The intellect doesn't want to lose money, doesn't want to waste time. Passion isn't produced by the intellect, and I think that's why the intellect doesn't really value passion. But passion is the driver that will get us up and put us in the opportunities or the activities or the paths in a different way so that we actually learn things differently when we're passionate about it. Then if we got shitty energy, we're not even going to notice the stuff that could be presenting itself as opportunities because we're just there because we have to be there. We're not in the right mode to learn and have fun and actually grow if our energy isn't into it. So despite anything and everything we just said, if something we think is working or is not working is right for you and you're passionate about it, do that. And I've said that so many times to so many people. And I know you've said this so many times to so many people. When they go, what should I do? This, or that. Our answer is often, what will you do?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
That's what you should do. What do you want to do? What are you passionate about doing? What's aligned for you? Who cares about all those statistics and what's working for other people? What's the thing that you're going to commit to?
Yeah. And the same thing goes with the consistency conversation too, right? With consistency, it's whatever you're going to do, whether it's once a week or once a month or 4 times a day, whatever is going to be aligned with you and brings you joy and that you're excited about doing. That's the thing. That's 100% where you should start. That's the right thing to do, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And giving yourself permission to do that. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Which requires you to know what you want.
Yep.
The answer to almost all of your questions, you guys, is going to go through you. Meaning you need to have individual attention. Yeah. We need to look at what your individual desires are, what your individual triggers are, what your individual fears are. 100 people could have the fear of speaking in 100 different ways for 100 different reasons, which means there's 100 different solutions to the same symptom. Right. Way too few coaches or people who want to be coaches are giving themselves individualized attention. But you're operating in an individual market, selling an individual product to individuals. The solutions in the coaching market for you as the coach, but also what you're offering other people are personalized by nature, because we're talking about transformation. And there's really no assembly line approach to transformation. So if your product is personalized in nature, then your product probably needs to be evolved with personalization. And I say probably just because I hope that makes sense to you. What I'm telling you is it absolutely does.
Yeah.
So you need to have individualized attention.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we offer in our company is free individualized attention calls.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to our website, coachseansmith.com/book my call, register for a free call with one of our coaches, and get some help, get some personalized help, so that we can know exactly who you are and what your product is and what your fears are and what your circumstances are and what your resistances are and what your passions are, so that we can give you a proper piece of advice about what we think you should do. Not what the next thing is or what the right thing is. We want to tell you what the right thing is for you based on alignment. So book a call and give yourself that gift. It's really a gift of that individualized attention. And the other thing, we talk about this all the time because it's something that irritates us from just an ideological standpoint. But we also know it's just one of the biggest things that is misaligned for people. So many coaches are trying to get people to hire them, but they haven't hired anybody. If you haven't hired a coach,
Mm-hmm.
how dare you sell coaching?
Well, you're not. I would almost guarantee it.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Again, especially in the transformational world.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't say that as pressure, demeaning sales tactics or any of that sort of stuff. We just see how many times people are struggling getting clients and we go, have you ever hired a coach? Well, no.
Right.
What? Like it,
Right.
it's just, it's mind blowing actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go on for a little bit longer here. And I'm going to stick to
over 2 hours though. That's exciting.
Yeah, a lot of people are. Let us know if you've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
If you've been here start to finish, maybe like inside the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, you've been here the whole time. Let us know so we can pray for you.
Pray for your day.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Chad's ready for 6 hours.
He's ready for the full 6 hours.
Don't you tempt him, Chad.
Chad says, or Cindy says, bio break. Been here for the first minute.
Coach Edward, I see you. Nabil,
awesome.
I hope you're saying your name right. Yeah, that's awesome. Lupe.
Godwin, Bree.
Jamila.
Oh,
Cindy canceled her plans.
Joy says, pray for me. We'll pray for you, Joy. Jenny Lynn, been here the whole time. Andy, been here the whole time. Lupe, sorry if I missed anybody there. Bert, been here the whole time. Ate dinner while listening. You might have a second meal by the time we're done. You might have dessert by the time we're done. Awesome. Anshul, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Andy.
Antonia.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, Michelle. Because we see the numbers of how many people are on and so forth, but we can't actually tell, who's cycling through and coming in. Cool. Cam says, me too. Awesome.
Yeah, Kevin.
Renee says, shave my head while watching. Yeah, you get on one of our live streams, especially YouTube live streams. These can go a while. You can get a lot of stuff done.
And they can't fast forward us here like you can when you're watching the video. So they're listening to us in like real time, not even 1.5 speed.
That's right. Yeah. How many of you speed up the videos? Michelle and I were talking about this recently, and I've talked to a bunch of other people. Like, I can't watch videos that are on regular speed anymore, unless it's music videos. Those are the only videos, to the point where if anybody's talking regular and I'm on YouTube, I'm like, what do you do? I almost get angry. Like, I almost get upset. What do you like? Come on. And then I realize I didn't, change the listening speed. Right. Yeah. Coach Chad says 1.5 speed. Andy says I do. And some people have the rhythm or the voice or the enunciation where you can listen to like 2.5. And some people, you just can't go faster. That's my experience. You can't just go faster than like maybe 1.5. Or sometimes when the information is too deep, and it's something new, then I need to slow it down because it's hitting me just in a different way. Like, all right, we gotta go slow for this one. But yeah, it looks like a lot of people know that you can speed up videos. You can speed things up in Google if you watch videos in Google Drive, Audible if you do Audible books. Cool. All right. So let's go on for a little bit longer. We are going to finish by 8 o'clock somewhere. That is my commitment, and you can count on it and you can bet on it. 8 o'clock somewhere. So let's put some of these concepts together. Where are the opportunities for you? One of the distinctions that we've identified and we're going to really dive into in eSchool for coaches is the difference between an opportunity chaser and an opportunity creator. Yeah. And this is something that I've never taught before, because we didn't identify this distinction until a couple of weeks ago. Some of you might have heard me say it like within the last few weeks, but if you can only chase opportunities, then you need somebody else to create them for you. Ooh. And that's a dangerous place, you guys. Yeah. It's a dangerous place because that means you're dependent on somebody else cooking your dinner. Right. But when you become an opportunity creator, no matter where you go, you'll be able to see the opportunities. You'll be able to recognize. You'll be able to develop opportunities. You'll be able to adjust. Because when you create an opportunity, you're making something that wasn't there a moment ago or a year ago. You're making something. At the very least, you're making your version of something. So when you create something new, that's a different game than when you just take a commodity or some kind of product and you just pass it along. Like, this worked, somebody else built it, it works for me, it helps me clean my floors, and I'm going to teach you or sell you how to clean your floors. Like, okay, that's just pass through stuff. But when you go, I see an opportunity here and I'm going to create a path that wasn't here before for you, because I know you, because I know the arena, because I know what it is that you're going through. That is an entirely different game. It takes different muscles to build in order to get to that point. It takes time. It takes a lot of milestones. And how quickly you get there is going to be dependent on you. So not everybody's going to go through that at the same pace. And not everybody's milestones are going to look the same. But when you make that shift to opportunity creator at an identity level, you literally are unstoppable at that point, because there are opportunities everywhere. Yep. If you're an opportunity chaser, then you need to be able to recognize the opportunity that somebody created for you and somebody sold you, and you need to make sure that it's aligned with you. There's just a lot more variables there. That's more of the employee mindset. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Show me where to go and I'll go there. Tell me how to price my stuff and I'll price my stuff there. Well, you just tell me what to do. That's a chaser. You're just chasing. You're just following somebody else's path or somebody else's instructions for you. One of the things that makes this difficult, though, is that the human brain actually wants that.
Yeah.
The human brain wants to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. The human soul doesn't, because the human soul understands the concept of purpose and creativity and flow and love and exploration. But the human brain's like, listen, we got a finite amount of energy. We got a finite amount of resources. I don't want to mess anything up. I don't want to fall down if I don't need to. So somebody tell me what to do to make sure that I avoid failure. Because the human brain is trying to keep us alive. The human brain is trying to protect our resources, our energy, our self-concept. The human brain is operating differently than the human soul operates. So there's a piece of our brain that really wants to be told what to do. And so when we see opportunities that look like being told what to do, it's actually really satisfying to the human brain.
Sure.
It's just crushing to the soul if it ends up being misaligned. Now, you can use these two entities together. One without the other is actually disastrous. There's just different kinds of disasters. You can use them together, but you've got to use them appropriately, meaning the mind should be used to support the soul, not the opposite. The mind should use its powers for strategy and problem solving and intellectual navigation to help the soul's dreams be realized. What most people, I think, are doing, and it's easy to fall into this pattern because we've all been programmed this way, we're being driven by and fueled by the brain.
Yeah.
And the intellect is a phenomenal navigator. It's a horrible fuel source.
Yeah.
Because there's no passion there. There's no dreaming. It's just a completely different entity.
Yeah. It's not its job.
That's not its job. Right.
Yeah.
Right. We hired it to keep us safe. We hired it to fix things. We hired it to solve problems. But yet we demand it function in a different way.
Yeah.
Then it even has the capacity to function, or why we hired it in the first place. I think that's a great way to think about it. So we all are creators. Whether you are creating or not, you're a creator. You might be a constipated creator. Who are we praying for?
You. That's who. We are praying for you. But it's true, right? Because we're blocked.
It is true. We're blocked. We're blocked.
Does that mean are we like the enemas then? Is that what this is? Just so I know.
That's the whole sales pitch for Eastville right there. We are the enema for the constipated creator.
I feel like there needs to be like a you know.
Oh, that's so wrong. And so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
More fiber. Now, I'm going to really dissect this.
Yeah, we're
here
gonna be.
and continue to do it because it's just too perfect. We have a
Mhm.
digestion system that's just not working.
Right.
We have something that could and should be happening, but because of some reason, it's not.
Yeah.
And the constipation of the soul's creation is
Mhm.
because of the editing of the intellect. It's because of the judging of the intellect, the
Yeah.
punishing of the intellect. That is the constipator.
Mhm.
That is the thing that sometimes it's a shame that I know what I'm going to say before I say it. Because, if I react to my own, Bert, save me.
The problem is that I am fearing, like I am like, oh my God, is he going to say what I think he's going to say? So
Yeah, you're
yeah,
worse than me. So don't. But for
I'll keep
now, we'll
it
just let people think that you're not. So I get more scared when my thoughts match yours than you get scared when yours match mine. So that judger, the punisher, the intellect, the ego, the perfectionist, all of that, it stops the flow of creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity, just like your sacred bowels, should flow.
Yeah.
And
Multiple times a day.
multiple as
That's true.
disgusting as this analogy is, I apologize, but it's actually perfect.
Yeah, but it's embodied, right?
It really truly is perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Godwin
constant.
says, face your enemas.
Yeah, I love that. I also love it because they said keep your friends close and your enemas closer, which I also really like. Um,
That's amazing. Keep your friends close and your enemas closer.
yeah, that's a
That's
t-shirt.
amazing.
Yeah.
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 The truth around this and the sad reality around this is when we block our creativity,
Yeah.
people miss out
Yeah.
and you miss out because you don't recognize how much brilliance and how much value you have inside of yourself because it's not getting out of you. It's not like one of the things that I fully believe is that your message needs oxygen to evolve.
Right.
Your message will not evolve in your head. It cannot evolve in your head because your head is where the harshest criticism lives. Now, we can get to the point where some of that stops, but I mean, I've created a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I still have a harsh, very harsh voice in my head. So I don't personally know a way to make that harsh, judging voice shut up. I don't know a way to make it go away. I just know it's part of the process. And now I'll produce something and the voice comes in and goes, well, that was stupid. And I go, oh, okay, yeah, you're supposed to think it's stupid because you're the one that thinks the good stuff is stupid.
Right.
Thank you for the confirmation, right? And you don't recognize the good stuff anyway. So I'm glad that you think that this is stupid because that's
Right.
actually more confirmation that's probably good. Because if you don't like it, somebody else needs it.
Right.
But we have to understand the process of creativity, the process of human creativity, the process of the ego's judgment of creativity in order to give ourselves the permission to keep going when things get uncomfortable.
Right.
So just to highlight what I said, if you don't give yourself permission to get your message outside of you, then your message can't evolve. And then other people don't get to hear it. You don't get to hear it. But people don't get served with the lessons that you have because you're blocking their breakthrough. So you're not just blocking your bowels, you're blocking their breakthrough. That's the intrinsic service-driven shift that almost nobody makes.
Yeah.
And that's why Chad said I'm getting flushed. That's a good one. That's why so many people fail.
Yeah.
Is they are not driven by intrinsic standards,
Right.
that creativity deserves and demands and requires. So in every way possible, you guys, the shift inside your identity is what has to happen in order for you to create what you want to create. If you're building a business, which is already a creative endeavor, because you're building something that doesn't exist, you're creating it, but you're creating a business around a product that is also creative, which transformational coaching is. The essence of transformational coaching, just one-on-one coaching a client, that's a creative process by itself. That requires flow. That requires connection. That requires not knowing where we're going. That requires certainty. That requires a lot more creativity than intellectual preparation. So the product itself, the interaction itself is creative. Who you are in delivering your message, in marketing, in selling is creative. The act of building a business around the creation of something that's creative is creative. So now we've got multiple levels of creation sitting on top of each other and feeding into each other and cycling on top of each other. So now we're really not dealing with 3 levels of creativity. We're dealing with an exponential amount of creativity, because your creativity is creating on top of creativity.
Right.
And I say all of that not to confuse you, but hopefully to actually excite you, because we can unlearn the thing that's blocking all of that creativity. Once upon a time, your creativity was not blocked. Once upon a time, you watch little kids, they create, they dance, they draw, they sing, they explore. The human spirit is creative by nature.
Right.
It's just reactive by nurture. Or lack of nurture. It's reactive according to programming, but it's creative by nature. So the thing that we want to advocate for all of you is that there is an aligned recipe for you. Every single one of you have value because you have lessons you've learned from your previous adversity. And those are valuable lessons because somebody else could learn from those lessons. Somebody else could avoid what you didn't have the capacity to avoid or what they would otherwise experience. So to other people, your lessons are valuable.
Right.
If you have valuable lessons, then there is a recipe for you.
Yes.
What we believe and what we want to advocate for you, not just in eSchool for Coaches, but yes, inside that too, in a formal way, but just conceptually, what we believe and what we want you to believe is that it's just a matter of time. Not just time on the calendar, though. Right. Time on the clock. It's just a matter of time before you find that clicking point of alignment. But you're not going to do it with reaction. You're not going to do it with chasing. You're not going to do it with the intellect. You're going to do it with the embodied learning, with the embodied activity, with the understanding of and the leaning into the creation of creation of creation. All of that is possible for you if you know the arena and if you know some of the shifts that need to be made and if you have the right amount of support. Support is way more valuable than our minds think it is. Our minds overvalue information and undervalue support.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, If you believe what I said a long time ago about resiliency and the muscles of you getting back up being more important than the muscles of never getting knocked down, what builds resiliency better? Information or support? What facilitates resiliency more? Support. So if resiliency, after getting knocked down, after getting expectations not met, is more important, and support is the thing that's going to facilitate resiliency more, then put more effort and energy and focus on support than information. It's just what we've learned personally as a company over 17 years, and talking to a lot of people and watching a lot of people in this industry. Mm-hmm. Resiliency is the most important muscle, and the identity shift feeds into the trust in the resiliency muscle.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I said this directly, but I want to give a little kind of quotable or memorable thing here is you can't create an entity of creation without an identity of creation. You can't build an entity of entrepreneurship without an identity of an entrepreneur. So the identity has to match the entity that you're trying to create. And when both of them include creativity, we got to unlearn a bunch of stuff. And the process of learning in the creative way simply doesn't match the process of learning in the reactive way or in the linear way.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that there actually is a different path to follow, then you'll probably just decide that what you're doing must be wrong because it doesn't feel right. And that's because we define feeling right with familiar or comfortable. Mm-hmm. It can't be familiar and comfortable for you to learn on this path with a creative product in a creative endeavor where you're evolving as a person. So going back to this idea of where are the opportunities, the opportunity will always be available. Once you recognize opportunities in the environment, you are the opportunity.
Yeah.
For other people to get a new voice, to get a new perspective, to get a fresh face, to get a fresh experience. You become the opportunity. Mm-hmm. You become the deliverable of the outcome that people are wanting. And you do it with authenticity. You do it with distinction. So all the things that we've been talking about the industry and how the world has changed, that's actually creating an opportunity for people who are willing to be authentic. Mm-hmm. I think more than we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Because over the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, people have been getting taken advantage of by people who are not authentic. So they didn't have the experience of being taken advantage of. 15 years ago, when the coaching industry got online and people started marketing on social media, everything was new. Nobody had the experience, especially online, of being taken advantage of by anybody who they thought was something different.
Right.
So if you put authenticity up against perfection, let's say 15 years ago, people are going to choose one or the other for who cares why. But now people value authenticity more because they've been taken advantage of non-authentic people or non-authentic opportunities or products or promises. So now the thing that didn't have a lot of value because people hadn't fallen for the other thing has a lot more value now.
Yeah.
What always blows my mind is in our community, when people like the stuff that we put out and, say we binge watch your channels or whatever, the most common comment that we get, which I'm extremely grateful for and fascinated by, is that you're real.
Yep.
That's by far the most common comment.
Absolutely.
Probably 20 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. That's awesome. I celebrate it. I receive it. I know they think the same about you, Michelle, and Valerie, and so many people that they experience through the company. But when did real become different?
Mm-hmm.
When did real become distinct?
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that real is way more distinct and valuable now than it used to be, because people didn't have the negative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the opportunity, you guys. And all that takes is willingness and permission.
That's
None
right.
of you need any skills to be real.
No.
You just need permission to be real. And because realness is, it's supply and demand. There's a lot less supply of realness, so the value has increased.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going to change for a while. Like this, the pendulum is not going to swing back for a while, meaning it's going to be a long, long time, I think. Probably never. I don't think this will ever happen just because of the way human brains work. I don't think the pendulum will switch back to where the standard is real and authentic.
Mm-hmm.
There's way too many things to get over that most people are not willing to get over for the market to be saturated with realness.
Mm-hmm.
But if that were to ever happen, it's going to be a long time, you guys. So this opportunity for real and authentic and transparent truth has never been as high as it is now, in my opinion, and what I'm seeing in the world and in the coaching industry specifically.
I also want to say that I don't think there can be a saturation, because what's real for you, Sean, is not going to be what's real for Julie, is not going to be what's real for me. So there is only, like, there's no competition, because there's not a real course to take, right? Like there's not a, here's how you do real. Here's 3 steps to being real that everybody's going to follow. And then the marketers are going to create a thing that everybody's going to buy. It's really just the individual permission. And since there is only one me authentically, then there's not going to be any oversaturation, because ain't nobody else authentically doing me. Just like there's nobody else doing anybody else that's watching this video right now. So there's no competition. There's no saturation. It's you. That's, I mean, and that's the distinction. That's the value that you were talking about.
Which isn't the case with information. So people that are selling information products, how to market on certain platforms, you know, it's got to be at least 1,000 different products on how to increase your Instagram following and your YouTube channel and all those platform specific stuff. There's thousands of programs that are teaching, you know, different versions of the same information. Mm-hmm. But there can never be another version of your authentic self, as you said. I think that's a really key point. So your opportunity is really found in your willingness. And again, everybody can do this. Most people are not willing to. So it's not a capability issue. It's a permission issue. If you're willing, you are capable. Even if you're not willing, you are capable. Either way, you're capable. You're capable of unlearning, and you're capable of finding the aligned recipe with the people that are looking for the lessons you've learned in your life. You're capable. Here's a question that I just thought about as I said, the lessons that you've learned in your life. When people are afraid of visibility, or people are afraid of, you know, showing up as an imposter, or any of the other resistance patterns that a lot of people experience, it's all coming from an ego protection place. Mm-hmm. What will they think about me? What if I get it wrong? What if I mess up? It's all coming from this place of protecting our self-image to some degree. If we dive deep enough, we'll land there. It's going to be ego protection. But yet we say that we're here to help people.
Yeah.
People who are really, truly driven by service are not trying to protect their ego at the same time. Those two things cannot be real at the same time. You can't be operating in both of those at the same time. You can't be operating in service and self-protection at the same time. In any given moment, one of them is overpowering the other. But what if we don't ask ourselves if we're good enough from our internal judgment mechanism, the Punisher that we were talking about a little while ago? What if we don't come from that filter and that perspective and ask ourselves if we're good enough to be a speaker, if we're good enough to be a coach? What if you personified your purpose? Like you take your purpose, the thing that you were meant to do, the thing that you were born to do, the thing that's encoded in your DNA, the thing that you've been training for your whole life through all the adversity that you've gone through. You've been training to fulfill this piece, your assignment, your soul's obligation, the thing that you can't go to your grave without teaching. What if we could personify that piece of you and it actually shows up almost like a human body, right? Or maybe it shows up in just an energetic shape or something. But what if we could pull that piece out of you, that purpose, and then speak to it and ask your purpose how much it believes in the lessons that you've learned for other people. So if we remove your ego out of it completely, and we just ask your purpose, how much do you believe that those people need these lessons? What would your purpose say? And then let's put you back in it. Then we asked your purpose, how much do you believe in your human's ability to teach those lessons to those people? What would your purpose say? I'd love to hear what comes up for any of you that hear that. What's your reaction? What are your feelings or your thoughts? What does your purpose say about your ability to deliver it? What does your purpose say about the value of the lessons you've learned? What does your purpose say about the urgency for you to do this thing? What does your purpose say about the need for support? What does your purpose say about all the stuff that your ego probably shuts down? That's a whole different perspective. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, what does your purpose say?
My purpose has zero doubts that that I am the deliverer of this message.
Yeah.
Daddy, Are You Proud of Me? Which will come out soon, be launched soon. That I can not just heal people, but help create healers who can heal people. And zero doubts that I have the capacity, I have the body, I have the awareness, I have all the training to help men with masculinity issues, with wounded masculinity.
Yeah.
That I can help heal divisions within our society, within relationships, within families, within ideologies, like there's actually zero purpose, zero doubts that this is what I need to, not I need to, but that this is what I'm here to do and capable of doing.
Mhm. That's beautiful.
I have a poem about that. I want to read this poem, but you answer that question while I search for this poem. What does
Okay.
your purpose say?
Yeah, I actually posted it in chat right away. There was a calmness that kind of washed over me, and I just heard, "Hello, love. It's beautiful to see you. I've been waiting," and not with like an anger or an
Right.
impatience, but just
Finally.
like right, yeah, none of that. No attitude from my purpose. Just like an like a almost like a comfort, like a welcoming home, right? Like how a good hug from somebody that you love, an embrace, how that feels. That's how it felt to me. And no, there is zero doubt in what I have the body for and in the work that I know I've been training my whole entire life to do, for the people who need me.
And it takes a while to get there.
Sure.
This is not just a flip of a switch. So, for me, years and years and years, and all kinds of doubts and all kinds of problems and challenges and failures and all that stuff. And I know the same for you.
Oh yeah.
What most people, I think, are wishing for is that they could get to that level of certainty without doing all the things that are required to get to that level of certainty.
Right.
So regardless of where you are on that scale, that doesn't mean that you don't have people that you can help. Wherever you
Yeah.
are, there's somebody that needs the lessons that you're holding in right now.
Yeah.
And if that irritates you, that's good.
Yeah. You're
I'd
welcome.
rather you be irritated by the constipation of your service and your creativity than to try to use shame or guilt or anything else to motivate yourself. Because you're going to be driven by service a lot more. That's actually a big part of this piece. So I wrote this poem. Some of you might have heard it last year. I shared it on just one other place that I know of, that I remember. And it's this conversation. It's, what does it really mean to be a leader? What does it really mean to be a transformational coach in the way that I hold on to transformational coaches, which is like heroes?
Yeah.
I think we are heroes to people because we can help people in phenomenal ways. I think we can save people's lives with this deep work. I think we can change the way people experience the rest of their lives on this planet with this work. I mean, the work that can be done is truly incredible.
Mhm.
And in my mind, that's a superhero. And we all have superpowers.
Mm.
But for most of us, it's not really about trying to find the cape that we need to put on that's going to give us the ability to fly. It's really about taking the capes off that we've been trying to put on so that we can reveal our ability to fly and stop holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
So here's the poem. My invitation to all of you is just close your eyes if you want, or whatever you want to just really feel into this and these words. It takes a village to raise a child, they say, through all the phases of human growth. But what does it take to raise a superhero? That's what I want to know. What's required to build the muscles you'll need in all the various forms, whether it's moving mountains or changing diapers? When duty calls, the heroes perform. What's required to develop the courage, strength, and stability of a true leader who can meet the storms that grow scary with the stable roots that grew deeper? See, if your journey is going to grow you, then your journey is going to show you a bunch of challenges and obstacles and valleys for you to go through. But on the other side, with all the lessons learned, you'll get to know you, have a taller version of yourself that you ever thought you'd ever grow to. When times get tough, there must be a purpose much stronger than your fatigue. And when times get rough, you'll be fueled by service much longer than meeting your needs. So instead of trying to push yourself up the hill for your desires, find the thing that pulls yourself, that will stretch and lift you higher. See, most people seek motivation by asking, what's in this for me? What will I gain? What can I buy? Who will I get to be? Where can I go? How can I live? Oh, the ecstasy, especially if I can make sure to get my ex to see. Get that selfie stick ready so the world can see this winning picture of me dressed up in my accomplishments, smile painted so perfectly. But underneath the pain of stress is the truth I never wanted you to see. The stain of my success can't fulfill a not version of me. See, the currency of influence doesn't give a transaction, but a transformation. The increasing price of possibility is what the hero calls inflation. The cost of courage requires a deeper fuel that you can't afford to miss. So don't ask what's in this for me. Ask what's in me for this. Why did this purpose choose my body to incubate itself inside of? Why did this mission choose my belly to impregnate itself in spite of all the doubts and fears and worries and imperfections I always share about? Because my lessons and my adversity is the only thing my seekers care about. So let me ask you, what's the message in your cells that you can't go to your grave without teaching? What's the vision that you can't fulfill without some stretching and some reaching? Who's the person out there waiting for you, needing your medicine for their healing? What's the version of you waiting in there, needing your permission for its revealing? What's the puzzle out there missing your piece? Who's the woman out there wishing for her peace? Who's the man drowning in shame, wishing that he could cancel it? What's the calling in your name, wishing that you would answer it? Because on the other side of the mountain that you currently may be climbing is a person begging, searching, pleading, yearning, or even crying for the experiences of your past that have strengthened you and shaped you to give you the courage to get yourself out of the way of their breakthrough. So whatever you need to go through it. When you see the opportunity of growth, go to it. Whatever and whoever you need to be, become it. Whatever adversity the journey feeds you, learn from it. Don't wait to answer the call when the phone rings. I want you to start dialing. Keep inching forward or footing or metering or miling. Don't just tell me you're willing to put the time in. I want to know if you're willing to put the grind in. I want to know if you're willing to leave the group that you've been flocking in. I want to know if you're willing to keep getting up, caping up, and clocking in. So what does it really take for a superhero to be raised? It takes a human willing to learn from all the lessons of all their days. It takes a human willing to talk about all the risks that they have braved. It takes a human willing to walk and keep walking the sacred path unpaved. Now, what does it take to make a superhero? Whatever you've been through. What does it take to raise a superhero? A supportive village or two. What does it take to praise a superhero? Well, that's for you to do. So go take a look in the closest mirror and you'll see one looking back at you. we're already superheroes because we have things that will save people. We have things that will help people. We already are. We might not be wearing the cape and the costume and doing the things, but we are already, because we've done the work. We've learned the lessons. We've bled along the journey already. It's more about giving ourselves the permission to let that superhero out and let that superhero do the work that the lessons that the superhero has learned have for other people, the healing for other people. And so much of this is just about getting out of our way. It's unlearning a lot more than learning. It's revealing what already is inside. And the other thing that I'm present to right now, going all the way back to what we've been talking about with the world and how disruptive the world is, disrupted the world is, disrupted people are. You are the type of people the world needs. Because we've been traumatized. Traumatized people need real heroes. Heroes that are real. People that really fully understand them, that can sit with them, that can hold space, that can connect, that can understand who they are. The traumatized human and the traumatized humans collectively and the traumatized society that we have right now, they don't need another 1, 2, 3, this is how to get happy assembly line product. They need real transformation. They need to fall back in love with themselves. They need to change the way they see what's looking back at them in the mirror. They need to heal the wounds that they've been carrying around for so long. They need to bridge the divide inside their family, inside their relationships. That takes realness. That takes authenticity. It really, truly is a time for those of you that are willing to do this work with yourself, for yourself, on yourself, and then share what you've learned along the way, share your healing hero powers along the way with the people that need it the most. And the world has never needed it more than it does now, in my opinion. Certainly not in my lifetime. So this really, truly is a calling for people who are willing to step forward and see the value in their authenticity rather than trying to hide your authenticity. Use your imperfections and your lessons as your superpower. Stop trying to hide everything that you're insecure of and then rent somebody else's superpowers. Because you already have your own. And yours fit perfectly for you. And horribly for everybody else. And everybody else's doesn't fit for you. But you have a place. You have a piece in the puzzle. And that puzzle needs your piece. It doesn't need a version of a piece that's already in there. Like, oh, I can do that too. The puzzle's going, I don't need it. That's already there. I don't need that. I need you. Give me your voice. Give me your face. Give me your perspective.
Right.
And it's permission, you guys. It's not skill set. It's not motivation. It's not perfection. It's permission. You already have the value. You've already done so much of the work. Now we just need to help you find alignment. Anything you want to add?
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing and for inspiring those of us that are listening and watching. What I would add is really just a emphasis on what you shared. There isn't anything more for you to read or learn about or study in terms of information. Like, who you are is the value. And I do very clearly remember a time that statement was terrifying for me because of so much of what we talked about tonight, right? In terms of it not actually being safe, right? The things that I learned, right, that need to be unlearned are all the things that I kind of put on to protect myself. And that's why the support is so, that's why the support's critical. That's why the support is everything. That's it's you. It's always been you, right? So in all of the seeking for all of the information, I just want to let you know that you're the one. Like, you're the one that you have been looking for. You're the one that you're waiting for. You're the one for you to follow. And where the support is necessary is in helping you learn to trust yourself with that, helping you acclimate to that new relationship. But it's all, like, I promise you, it's all you. And that's exciting, because everything that we talked about what's working and what's not working, will all be built around you being the thing that is the value for the people that you want to serve.
Yeah, it's exciting after it's terrifying, right? Like you said, it's scary for a number of reasons, because we've been programmed that we're not the value. We've been programmed that we need to change. We've been programmed that we're the one that's messed up. And it's also scary just in the fact that it's new.
Yeah.
And it's also scary because that sounds like vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because it is. Authenticity is vulnerable, because you're taking the fake stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the answer. It really truly is. And just to echo what Michelle said, that requires support much more than information.
Yeah.
The information is what a lot of us have been using to put the layers on,
Mm-hmm.
for reasons that require the layers, beliefs that require the layers. So you're not going to use the same entity that created the layers and put them on to take them off. Doesn't make sense. You're not going to ask the same builder that built the wall to take the wall down unless and until they know, they've been convinced that the wall's not necessary anymore.
Right.
So that's what this internal game is really about.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were adding all that stuff, Michelle, what I became really aware of as well is that the majority of marketing, not just in the coaching industry, the majority of marketing across the planet for all products, thrives off of our insecurities and deficiencies and fears.
Yeah.
Because that's how they sell their Band-Aids.
Yes.
So what that means is, if you are my Band-Aid, then I'm the problem. I'm the wound.
Right.
And I need a Band-Aid to not heal it, but cover it up.
No.
So
Protect it from being seen.
if you can fix me by covering it up, then maybe I have a chance. Then maybe I can win. But even if you win that way, you're not winning as you. You're winning as a collection of Band-Aids. You're winning as the layers. You're winning as the not you.
Mm.
What's different at a deep, deep level or inside of everything that we're saying is we're operating from the opposite belief that you're not the problem that needs to be covered up. You're the
Right.
solution that needs to be uncovered.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be built on top of the knowledge that you are valuable and you are the most valuable ingredient in your recipe, and all the other ingredients need to support that.
Yes.
And that's not the way we are marketed to across all industries. We are marketed to with quick fixes. Buy this thing and you'll feel this way. And it sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work. You know, the quick fix recipe towards success is only temporary at best.
Mm.
But we're driven by and attracted to and now addicted to that kind of process. We'll open this up and dive much deeper in a future video where we can just focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that we operate in the world in general, but then the way most coaches are trying to learn how to build their business and figure out what works, is actually using a process of the brain that doesn't have the capacity to produce what you want.
Oh.
Because it's built on quick fixes. It's built on the dopamine chemical. It's built on what's called variable rewards. It's built on excitement. Mm-hmm. It's built on novelty. It's built on sexy. And there's no such thing as novel, sexy, exciting truth. I mean, maybe in the sense, kind of like what we were just talking about, that you are valuable. Maybe that's not like new truth. It's more like renewing that truth, because once upon a time we all knew that.
Right.
But when it comes to creating success in your business, most people are driven by fads. I think the industry is driven by fads. I think online marketing in general is driven by fads. I think we probably spend trillions of dollars chasing fads every single year for all kinds of different things. What's the next new thing? What's the next new diet? What's the next new platform? What's the next new hack?
Right.
And there's a never-ending supply of the next new thing.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is create something that people never heard of and promise something that they want, and there you go. You got the next new thing.
Yeah.
But you'll never build sustainable success with fads.
Mm-mm.
You'll never build fulfillment with fads.
Right.
There's just no microwave recipe. This stuff has to come out of the oven. But when it does, when you do that work and you do it the right way, the long-lasting effect and your ability to then create fulfillment and trust yourself and become the opportunity creator and all those things will produce what we're all wanting.
Right.
It's just that in order to make it sustainable, it's got to go another way. And here's what's also very real to me in this moment. I've got this voice inside of me saying, stop telling the truth. I got this voice inside, you know, that's learned from years and years of marketing and studying people and what do people want versus what do they need and what do people buy and what do people commit to. And a lot of our videos and trainings well, all of them are our version of the truth, what we believe to be true.
Sure.
But we offer and we sell long-term sustainable transformation. The problem with that is that's not sexy. It's not exciting. Doesn't get those butterflies going. It doesn't answer the question, oh, what information am I missing that will then fill in the recipe and will then catapult me toward my dreams? Because we answer that question with you. That's the ingredient that you're missing.
Yeah.
You. So it's simultaneously scary on some level and unfamiliar, but absolutely liberating and will change your dependency on information, on people, on sales tactics. It'll change your dependency on a lot of things once you become independent.
Yeah.
But it's the opportunity to truly transformationally change at a foundational level.
Yeah.
And most people don't want that. They want the result of that. They want the certificate of taking the class. They just don't want to go through the class. But we're not going to change what we believe in just because more people will buy it. And what I'm excited about, this program, eSchool for Coaches, or anybody that's buying this concept and you do this work, however you end up doing this work, what I'm excited about is, like, I've had this vision several times over the last few months that I've been thinking about this, is like we're all kind of stuck in this game of freeze tag, right? Especially for introverts, especially for insecure people, especially for teachers, especially for the dolphins that haven't learned how to swim at shark school. It's like we're frozen because all the stuff isn't working for us. What I get really excited about is the unfreezing of the frozen teachers, the unfreezing of the frozen heroes. And I get excited not just because the teachers and the heroes and the dolphins will then be able to do their stuff. I get excited for the people that they're going to help. Yes. I get excited for the people that need us to be unfrozen. So however many people end up saying yes to this concept, to this path, to this individual program that we're offering, who knows? We'll find out. But I get excited about a year from now when the people who are currently constipated are now flowing with their creativity. The people who are currently chasing opportunities and needing other people to set things up for them are creating their own. People who have products that right now are just in their belly, or maybe books out, or they start writing poetry, or they start singing or dancing, or just like, even if you don't do any of those things I said, but you're just living a more authentic life and you've dropped the 50 million pounds of emotional weight that might feel like it's in your backpack right now, if that's all that happens, and that we drop that and you just cruise around the world a little bit lighter than you might be doing right now, that in itself is worth it. But then if you adopt the identity of an entrepreneur and you learn how to identify opportunities, and you learn how to create, and you learn how to adjust, and you learn how to build programs, and you learn how to do all this work and build a business on top of all this sacred creativity that we're talking about, that unleashing and unlocking is what excites me to no end. And everybody can, most people won't. Everybody can, most people won't. that excites me and saddens me at the same time.
Well, here's the thing. If you're one of the people who can and does, that's an opportunity inside of the opportunity we've been talking about this entire time.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Renee did ask what you tell the voice in your head that says, stop telling the truth. I told her what I tell mine, but I'm sure the people would love to know what you say.
How many F words were in what you tell yours?
0.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of anything in particular that I tell it. I tell on it. That's what I just did. I was like,
Yeah.
hey guys, I got this voice. Let me tell you about it. So in this moment, I wasn't aware of any kind of conflicting voice because I wasn't going back at it. I was just recognizing, oh, you're telling me to stop and this is why. And then I just shared it with all of you.
Which is literally what I said I do.
Oh,
I
really?
acknowledge. Yeah. I understand where it's coming from because of everything that we talked about before. So I do acknowledge it because it wants attention. And one of the best things that we can do to something that wants attention is just like a little child that's like, dad, 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 mom, 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 mom. Just acknowledge it and then keep going with what you were doing. So I hear you. And I'm going to speak my truth anyway, because I need to prove to my body that I'm okay, that I'm safe for us to do this. And ignoring that is only going to make it louder. So the acknowledgement piece, like you did, you gave it attention and then you spoke your truth anyway. That's the thing for my money.
Yeah. It's one of the most critical elements, I think, of the creative process that, again, we misunderstand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think that people who create a lot of stuff never had that voice or have shut it off.
Right.
That's not true. In fact, I think the voice has to be strong and loud if your creation is going to be worth a damn. Because if that voice that's afraid of all the things that the voice is afraid of and the vulnerability and the exposing and stuff like that, if that voice isn't at the very least resistant to your creation is probably not true creation for you. It's safe creation. It's prostitution.
Nice. That's another word.
Prostitution.
Now we're constipated prostitutes.
Constipated prostitution. Yeah, we're prostituting our creation so that somebody likes it. In this case, the voice in the head. You don't want the voice of safety to like your creation because that means your creation's not really disrupting anything. It's just safe. I love what Godwin put in a few minutes back. People need to be sold to.
I know, right?
SOULED.
Yes.
I've said a version of that in the past, but I haven't said it in a long time. Kind of like that. You got to sell your soul.
Yeah.
But not with an S, with a C. You got to get your soul in your cells. You got to be saturated with your soul. And then sell the hell out of it. And your saturation of this work is actually what people will buy.
That's right.
Way more than the information that you can fill their brains with. That's good. Well, we got a lot more to talk about. And let's bring this video to an end soon here. I have a lot of gratitude toward all of you that are here and many of you that were here the whole time.
Yes.
Thank you for that. It's encouraging because part of that voice, or part of the conversation that that voice brings, is that nobody wants the truth. Nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to stick around and take action, and like they really don't want what you believe. This is the voice talking to me specifically. They really don't want what you believe is the answer. And that's just a pattern that I've had for a long, long time. Just doubting myself in almost any capacity, almost any endeavor, almost any circumstance. And this is just another one. What I've found is that when I create something that's vulnerable, such as poems, do certain videos, certain concepts, the more vulnerable it is, the more I doubt the value. It's how it works, you guys. It's just how it works. The more vulnerable something is, the thing that's been trying to protect you from vulnerability your whole life, it's not going to sign off on that one. Because it's protecting. But it's protecting something valuable. Because there's no other reason to protect something unless you perceive to be it to be valuable. So I think part of this process and invitation for all of you is a reintegration of you and you, of your mind and your body and your soul, your purpose. It's a reintegration. Because once upon a time, we all started to pull away from ourselves. That's when we started to put the layers on and started the authenticity path, or the inauthentic path. So much of this process is reintegrating.
Right.
Because we've separated from ourselves. But most of us have been separated from ourselves so long that we believe that the not version of us is the real us, just because we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like living an authentic life. One of the most powerful quotes I heard many years ago, I think you heard it the same time I did, is there's nothing more exhausting than living inauthentically.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that in my cells.
Amen. So if there's anything that we've shared that has landed with you, we'd love to hear about it. You can go ahead and keep commenting under this video.
Yep.
The live chat will go away on YouTube, so people can't type in there, but you can still comment on this video if it's just, under the video, like a normal published video. Any questions you have, obviously let us know. We shared a bunch of resources with you: Watch My Launch and eSchool for Coaches interest list, BCC, CCP, a lot of the programs that we have. And take advantage of whatever is going to be aligned for you and whatever your next steps are. We put a lot of energy into the support that we've been talking about is so important.
Right.
And that's what we want to provide for you if we're a good fit.
Yeah.
Whenever it works for you. So thank you all for the engagement and the laughter and the emojis and just your energy and your presence. 3.5 hours. I see the time here, 3.5 hours, and it just seems to go by so fast. And we could easily, be another 3.5 hours. Thank you for that, Coach Chad. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you, Sean, for just really modeling every single thing that you teach. Your life is a testimonial for how, like, what you share with us. you lead in the way that inspires us to lead. So you go first, and that matters. It matters to me. So I appreciate you for that, all the time, all the energy that you put into all of this, because of how much you care, not only about us, but about the humans that we are going to touch, and the humans those humans are going to touch. So I love and appreciate you deeply. Thank you.
Thank you for all that. I receive it. And I know you hold that same space for so many people that you've supported. Humans healing humans.
That's right.
How about that cycle that we want to increase? All right, you all. Have a good rest of your day. We're here to help and support however we can. And we will see you in another video.
Take care.